Season 1, Episode 14 has to kick off with admitting that there has been an error. I remain thoroughly convinced that Episode 13 is cursed because there was a big recording error which caused us to lose, I think, 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. I was off by 1. That caused us to lose 8 conspiracy theories, and so we have to go back over them. With that being said, we'll be starting off with Yahweh equals dragon.
This is a particular favorite of yours, isn't it, Sinaticus?
I mean, not really. I thought this is a favorite one of yours.
Well, there are a lot of different points that lead to this conclusion that are interesting to think about, because the description of God in the Old Testament is rather inconsistent. You have to at least admit.
Well, yeah, but then again, being an incorporeal figure, obviously he wouldn't have an actual form.
Well, how about you explain why people forward this in the first place?
Alright, well, there are several points. There's basically just this master post that has a bunch of bullet points as to why this is real. I'm just gonna say a few. The only image/idol Yahweh ever permits is that of a fiery flying serpent. The image has supernatural powers, and Yahweh allows it to be freely worshipped at Solomon's temple. As soon as the idol is broken, disaster befalls Israel, and it has never recovered until the late 20th century. The flood story of Genesis be a retelling of the Sumerian versions in which the god Enlil, who is subservient to the creator god, is also called a great serpent dragon of heaven. The name Yahweh comes from the Canaanite dragon god Yah, who, like the biblical Yahweh, is a god of storms and floods, but is a son of the true creator Elohim, also in the name of the creator in Genesis 9. There is also that little strange inconsistency where there are a bunch of different names that are for God that are used in the Old Testament. In certain cases where they will use Yahweh and Elohim even in the same passages and refer to Yahweh as the son of Elohim, which is all sorts of strange shit, isn't it?
Well, it's kind of like the Christian, Jesus is the Son of God, but he's also God himself type deal, I would say.
In Exodus, Yahweh leaves his dragon-sized tent and flies ahead of the Israelites to burn away impassable briars and scorpions. He marks the route by spewing.
I don't remember that part. You're gonna have to give me those verses.
Well, this guy doesn't, so...
Yikes, no citations.
It says that Yahweh physically consumed the meat offerings. Is this something that happened?
I don't recall that ever happening, so either I didn't read it properly, or I read an abridged version, or this guy's just straight up lying.
Well, I'll link the post anyway, and you can take a look at it for whatever you...
Yeah, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna have to take a look at that link. We'll keep it for now because it's interesting and we can go into deeper dives with this. Move this over. Up next is Colonel Corso's thesis.
If I remember correctly, Colonel Corso was a former American army officer that was very heavily into the UFO stuff. He did a lot of things like trying to expose the U.S. government. Yeah, he wrote a book called The Day After Roswell. I mean, yeah, he was a very high-ranking army official, and he wrote several books and several lectures about how like Roswell was a real alien crash, and how the government is keeping, UFO stuff at Area 51 and all that. Normally it would be very suspect, but he is like a very high-ranking official, so they give him validity in many circles. The name there is Philip J. Court. It's a bit of a boilerplate one, but
Alright.
nonetheless, I think interesting.
Holy Grail is evil.
Oh, jeez. Now, in the original recording of this, I went through and digging on this. Eventually, I found a link to a very sketchy zip file that I downloaded. Could have been a virus, but it turned out to just be a .txt file that I'm trying to find now, but I can't remember where it. Obviously, that goes into deeper dives. Here we go. Hunter's Chalice.txt. Yep.
Well, give us some, talking points before you post the thing.
No, I'm opening the file so I can look at the talk. The .txt file too is extremely long. Like, it's several pages. It goes into shit about how that the Holy Grail is an old legend referred to in a lot of other religions as the Hunter's Chalice. That's goes into stuff about Samaris, an Assyrian cupbearing god, who was like the wife of King Nimrod, which is just a funny sounding name. Fuck, the Voynich manuscript is mentioned. What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Partially hinted to have unknown recipes of a failed alchemical instrument for creating the famous Philosopher's Stone. Linguist Jacques Guy once suggested that the Voynich manuscripts be somewhat little-known natural language. Gary Kennedy and Bob Churchill hinted possibility that the Voynich manuscript may be a case of speaking in tongues, channeling, or outsider art. Yeah, basically this is an insane fucking text.
Yeah, I think we also insta-blacked it.
No, we didn't. We kept it open specifically because we needed to do a deep dive into the text.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep, no, you're right. Capacity suburbs.
Captivity suburbs, actually, and Baph said he wanted to do that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know why I said capacity. I'm fucking losing it.
Captivity, begins the article, is occurring when there is no place for a person to go where they can feel permanently free. A person in a suburban captivity can't go anywhere and be authentically free. So this article is going over some of the ethical and practical concerns of living in a suburban environment and its effects on people, particularly children, where leaving your house is not only pointless, but kind of dangerous, in some of those densely packed suburbs. Let's see. Oh yeah, the suburban captive is held captive by their homes, their expenses, garden, furniture, electricity, water, and HOA fees, if so applicable to you. These things erect an invisible wall around a person, which shelters them from the chaos of the outside world, but as a result, prevents them from growing as a person. So, TLDR, suburbs are bad for the human psyche, and I'm sure he links studies. This is a huge-ass article. Although he does forward the claim. No, wait, he does compare suburban areas. Oh shit. Oh no, the page, where'd it go? Oh god. You get the gist of it though, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Suburbs are bad for people. Agree or disagree?
I disagree. Sounds like a
Well-
convenient Democratic plot to get everyone to move into the city.
Well, do you think that being unable to enjoy the outdoors without driving 10, 30 minutes, do you think that's healthy?
I'm a weirdo. I like long car rides. But then again, I go on car rides with my friends all the time. You see, this only really ever works if you're by yourself. Then yeah, I suppose it wouldn't be worth going outside, but most people aren't alone.
Interesting point.
Oh, there's no comments. I'm disappointed.
Up next is Coin Spraying.
What's that, Boson?
Oh, there's not much concrete evidence about it. Basically, more of a concept than anything. The idea, if you wanted to spread the compound among a population, spraying it on coins would be the most efficient way of doing it, because they're spread around far more than any odd. Like if you put something on a coin like a disease, it would spread way faster that way than it would through any other method.
Alright. BP spill corporate warfare.
I really tried to find something on this because it sounds really interesting, but if I recall in the original recording, I could not find fucking anything.
Yeah, that was one of those ones we just moved on from.
Baph, do you have anything on it? Have you done the search on that one?
Oh, I don't have anything namely, but I do remember parallels to, how, wasn't there one thing on the iceberg that BP and the US government, like, sunk an island to extend US territorial control of an area in the...
Oh yeah, that was in the Gulf War. An island.
There was an island off the coast of Mexico, which
Okay, yeah, that was
cartographers documented.
Yeah, that was Isla Vermelha.
Yeah, and I think that's really similar. Like that's, I presume that was a BP thing. That's the allegory I draw. I mean, you got to look at it like critically. If you were one of the world's most valuable companies controlling the most valuable resource possible, don't you think you'd have a bit of sway and shit like?
Probably.
I can't name a company. I can't name an industry more valuable than oil.
Well, Baph, it's obviously gaming. What are you, dumb?
I know Apple's the most valuable company, but that's for a completely unrelated reason. So oil is the end all. It is the best thing. If you control oil, you control the earth.
And with that hot take, Grim Trigger Social Engineering.
This one actually has quite a bit of meat on it. So Grim Trigger is a term in game theory. It refers to a strategy you employ that leaves zero hope for cooperation once it's employed. It's like, because in game theory there's like you can have an offensive or you can cooperate. Once you employ a Grim Trigger strategy, you cannot cooperate after. It's zero hope for cooperation after. According to X, there are some amalgamated findings of a research initiative carried out by the Soviets during the Cold War. They found out that given the right cocktail of economic conditions, mass messaging, and water and foodborne drugs, a large group of people could be compelled to be driven entirely by revenge in their interactions with each other in day-to-day. The goal of the research was to develop a way to force the population of a given country to start a civil war with each other, giving an opportunity to bring the country into their sphere of influence. This idea that you can employ a Grim Trigger into a population that gives no hope for cooperation between two groups and cause them to have a...
That's fucked up.
Interesting parallels, though, when you look at the political climate in the U.S. right now.
Yeah,
Rather
yeah, it's
interesting.
true.
Wouldn't you say, Ben?
Sorry, I was reading something.
I know.
Maybe the Soviet Union has one last stab before it dies. That would suck.
The Post claims that all the Soviet scientists who work on it disappeared mysteriously during the late 70s. There isn't much info about it except for some very rare PDFs. Rumor has it that after the Cold War, the U.S. government bought all documents concerning Grim Trigger social engineering from the newly formed Russian government. God knows what they might be doing with it now, given so much of our lives are recorded by digital technology and quantified. That would be interesting. That they bought the fucking documents for?
Yeah. USA-EU global control global climate.
Well, this is a bit vague, because is it referring to literal climate, like the weather, or is it referring to, like, the socio-political climate of the world? I'm unsure.
I think it's talking about weather climate.
Yeah? But for what purpose?
I mean, because, like, the second one is just true.
I guess, yeah. For what purpose would the US and the EU control the global climate weather-wise, other than to, you know, I guess it's a whole, like, a climate change truther thing, right? Where it's, like, entirely artificial and they're doing it for whatever purpose.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think there's any evidence for that. And I mean, there are a bunch of conspiracy theories that we've left on that don't have any actual evidence. I mean, like, no evidence. Like, no one even talks about it.
Indeed, we have. I guess we'll... I mean, it's like one of those things where, like, if I found out they were doing it, it wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, I don't think they're doing it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you.
So we're gonna keep that one, and then we're gonna skip all the way down to where we're actually at. The original Cotton Eye Joe.
There's no info on X about this. But I
Well-
think it would. Oh.
Well, there's nothing on X, but the actual song is a poem from like the 1880s. So I just read like a 600-word article that basically just told me that. So.
Well, right. Well, is it a poem though? Because I thought that the origins of the song were unknown as of now.
No, it's not unknown at all. Let's see, let me get an excerpt for you. The first known published version appeared in Alabama writer Louis Clark Pinnell's 1882 novel Diddy Dumps and Tot, a nostalgic look at the antebellum South. It included poems and songs uttered by slaves, and Cotton Eye Joe was one of them.
So it wasn't originated from the book. It was put in the book because it's something that
It's
already
folk
exists.
music. It's made up. That's like saying, where did the Happy Birthday song come from? It was just kind of always there, and it got publicized.
The Happy Birthday song was very specifically written by a group of people, and they had copyrighted it for several decades. This is the...
This song is just a description of what slaves saw, and they made it a fun thing. You know, slaves did this thing where they sung all the time. You're telling me people can't make up songs? It has to be anomalous or something?
Yes, that is what I'm telling you.
Well, for starters, you're dumb. Okay.
I just think that this mysterious Cotton Eye Joe figure may be some kind of demon or something.
Hey, I'm trying to read something. You can stop. Okay, listen. Dorothy Scarborough, who was an ex-slave, included in her 1925 book On the Trail of Negro, she wrote, she learned parts of the song from an old man in Louisiana who picked it up himself from slaves on a plantation. So it was just something that was passed down.
Yeah, but from what?
Slaves.
Well,
Where
Boson,
did the slaves? Where's the origin point? Is what I'm at.
Well, I'm sure the slaves were imported from the East Coast, who were imported from Africa.
so Boson, you
I just don't
invoked-
understand how you have no interest in like the origin point, cultural thing. They just made it up, okay? Stop talking.
Okay,
about
so here's the thing, right? When people make up songs, they don't have to write them down, so it can be lost to time. They made this song up. It's no different than like the Beatles. The only difference is the Beatles wrote their shit down.
Well, that's what I mean, right? You're not the least bit interested, and maybe there's got to be some way to track down
I'm
where
not
it came from.
interested because it's a silly little folk song that became a 1995
All right.
classic.
So you're just literally saying it doesn't interest you because you don't find it interesting. Okay, thank you.
Well, no, it's because there's nothing to it that makes it interesting.
According to you,
well, you
Well,
you
no.
you have
invoked-
an inherent
Do
interest.
Gentlemen.
you have any idea? Do you have any idea how many folk songs there are that come from ambiguous sources?
Exactly. I find it interesting that you have this. There's just that it comes from basically, like, functionally speaking, nowhere. Obviously, it came from somewhere, but as far as you know, it just came out of nowhere.
And if it's not something you can
I
read,
find it interesting. It is something you can read.
Gentlemen.
at least with
is something you
UFOs,
can
you
read.
can. At least with like UFOs, you can hypothesize.
I'm not even saying
but
it's inherently anomalous. I just find it inherently interesting to try and find the origin point of
At
cultural.
least with UFOs, there's like something interesting you can hypothesize. Cotton Eye Joe being ambiguous does not point at anything. It doesn't hint at anything. It's just
Gentlemen,
It does. Was Cotton Eye Joe a real person?
I believe we're getting a little out of hand here, gentlemen.
unless you're trying
Because
to
he's retarded.
unless you're trying to reference a cryptid.
Is Cotton Eye Joe a cryptid? We can't black.
when we get into season 2, you two can just stab at each other
Well,
all you
you
want.
don't have to because mentalfloss.com already did a whole article.
They said that the origin point was a book that wrote it down because it already existed. That's not an
Yeah.
That's
However,
not an origin point.
Where did kissing come from? We don't know for sure, so it's anomalous.
But you don't have the least interest in finding out. Where's your sense of fucking discovery? Are
However,
you even a human being?
gentlemen, please,
Here's the thing: Cotton Eye Joe isn't interesting. In fact, it's annoying.
we have many other things to go over. Like I said,
You know, we could look into the ancient Egyptians, but that's not interesting to me. I don't really care about finding out about it.
Well, the Egyptians influenced history.
I don't want to dig that rock up. I don't think it'll lead anywhere.
The Egyptians influenced history tremendously.
Yeah, but the people who discovered the fucking shit didn't know. They just looked it up because they were interested in finding out what it was.
is this the
Well,
end?
obviously don't have it.
No one is interested in Cotton Eye Joe. So.
is this the end of the team? I can't believe
Mental
it.
Floss was interested enough. Mental Floss was interested enough to write a shitty article that didn't even give me any new information.
Because there is no new info, and it never will be found because the creators are dead.
I don't understand this drive that you have to just buzzkill fucking everything. What's wrong with it?
There's no buzz for Cotton Eye Joe. You're being disingenuous.
There's no buzz for this rock with drawings on it. It might be ancient, whatever, but if people write stuff down on rocks. Who cares? It's not interesting. It probably won't lead me. Who cares?
I'm gonna have to decide.
I'm not personally interested, so I don't think you should look into.
Well, I'm gonna have to sit down and decide what sections of this argument I want to keep and which ones I want to take out.
Put the whole fucking thing in Sinaticus. I want everyone to see how retarded this fucking.
No one cares about Cotton Eye Joe.
Okay. Like I said, season 2 comes around. You two can just smack each other all you want about this, because it'll be the only thing we'll be talking about. For now, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Arbutus Crucible?
I couldn't find
There's
anything.
fucking nothing.
The only thing that exists is that there are 2 towns with that name, but there's nothing on.
I found a Prezi article. That's a Prezi presentation that some kid made in high school. about the Crucible play, but I don't think that's related.
All right. Revenge of the Crystal.
Revenge of the Crystal is the title of it's the title of a compilation of writings by Baudrillard. I'm not an expert in Baudrillard, so I don't think I'm very qualified to speak on Revenge of. There's an interesting excerpt here that I found. It said, what is really the issue here is the theoretical narrative in which the object takes revenge. Baudrillard would like the object to speak for itself, and the object accounts the language of paradox. Indeed, he believes that the only antidote to the increasing carcinogenic irreversibility of our contemporary societies would be paradoxical narrative as an instrument of reversal. This is perhaps what a fatal strategy would be, a theory that turns back on itself to become an object. Not a theory of objects, but a theory object. A theory in which the... See, I fucking hate it.
It includes substantial translations of his major writings through the 60s, his critiques of consumption and Marxism, and his more speculative pronouncements of the 80s on sexuality, the nature of politics, and the effects of the image machine on our imaginations and systems of...
I hate philosophy.
Really, I fucking love philosophy.
Boson, why are you being a buzzkill?
Did you just listen? Did you just listen to the excerpt I read out? Can you parse any?
Yeah, I'm fascinated deeply.
Okay, what's a theory object?
You'd have to read the book to find out.
Well, maybe for the deep dive we'll get fucking Sinaticus to read the whole book for us, because I'm not.
You can buy a hardcover copy for $26.96 or a paperback for $40.
Why is the paperback?
I don't know.
I'm gonna say, why the fuck does the paperback cost more than the hard copy? The fuck? Anyway, for the deep dives, I'll yeah, maybe that's the conspiracy. The fucking ridiculous ass prices. Can someone else read this out? This is like
Jesus born in Texas.
Oh, hey, yeah. So I got a joke and then I got a real thing for that. You Google Jesus from Texas. The first thing you get is like a blog, and under the caption Jesus from Texas is this picture, which I'm uploading now. Oh, here it is. But I think it's actually gaslighting at a group of people called the House of Yahweh.
I don't know that.
The House of Yahweh, based in Texas, owned by a man named, let's see, Jacob Hawkins, who changed his name to Yisrael. They're a group of like pseudo Jews. They're doomsday prophets, and they think Satan is a girl.
Is there like a picture of these individuals?
Boast and try to find one. Members regularly perform ritual ablutions and are baptized when they join the assembly. 10% of their wages go to the cult. Christmas, Easter, and birthdays are not celebrated as they believe they are a pagan ritual. They've been in the news a couple times for predicting nuclear annihilation, but they've been wrong like 6 consecutive times.
Oh, I have a picture of their temple. Now, I know what you're gonna say. It looks like a bar, but hear me. It's
No, it's worth noting that they worship Yahweh and only Yahweh. They don't acknowledge other Christian Judeo figures whatsoever.
what do you mean, like no?
What?
Well, what do you mean by that? Like no saints, no angels?
They don't recognize saints. They don't recognize Jesus. They don't recognize like Adam and Eve, Mary. It's just Yahweh.
Alright, so I found an image of the guy. They are indeed well, they're definitely pseudo-Jews, that's for sure. This guy's got a tefillin on. But what sect? Oh. Oh no.
Oh, what is it?
It's a Messianic Jewish cult. So Messianic Judaism is a sect of Judaism that I belong to. Although some people will say it's a sect of Christianity, that's not a discussion for here. It has this nasty habit of producing holier than thou people and cults. The House of Yahweh is one of them. I'm not sure if this is gaslighting that or not. I don't think it is. Actually, it could be now that I think about it.
How far along are you guys?
We're on Pyro Salamandra because Jesus born in Texas was fucking retarded.
Sounds like something Mormons would say.
Yeah, Pyro Salamandra is a Yu-Gi-Oh card. So.
Really?
Jesus was Bosnian.
What does it do? What are its effects? How do you play it?
Oh, I don't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Alright.
Look it up.
Pyro Salamandria.
Oh,
Nothing comes up.
You know, if you look in MovieNet, the only thing I got from that image search was this Roblox link. It's either that or like a video game salamander.
And also, you didn't get anything Sinaticus because you spelled it. Sinaticus, because you asked. This is the card, okay.
Oh, it's an equipped card. You give plus 700 to any fire monster.
Did-
Holy shit, that sucks.
Did we already do jellyfish saturation?
Yes,
Yes, we already did.
What
Joe.
was the TLDR of that?
That-
because of pollution in the oceans, the population of jellyfish is like skyrocketing to the point where some speculate that jellyfish are going to be the only organisms left in the ocean.
Why would pollution make jellyfish happy?
I don't know.
I think I have found
I guess
the
because of their
actual
limited
one.
biological capability, they are the only ones that can really survive. They aren't very complex, so the pollution doesn't affect them. That's just a speculation, though. I'm not a fucking biologist.
No, probably not what it actually is. I'm probably just in the wrong place. God from Four Corners.
It's a Jungian idea that rather than a trinity, God exists in the set of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, but has a fourth side that is evil.
Oh, you guys went far.
I know. That's the basic gist I'm getting from X. I can assume it's more complex because it's Jungian, but Carl Jung argued that instead of the Holy Trinity, there was an older and more universal mythic tradition of God as a quaternary, with the fourth face of God being actively evil. Obviously, this didn't bode well for Christians, so they changed the evil fourth face into a separate entity. So sort of arguing that not a separate entity from God, but rather a aspect of God as part of the one entity, part of the God from Four Corners.
Well, there is some implication to suggest that God does actively allow evil in the world within the biblical canon. An example of this would be the entire story of Job. It's not too far out.
No.
I'm seeing a lot of four corners of the earth or from, but I'm not saying that same phrase anywhere.
Alright, P and W human hunting. Oh god.
This one goes deep, actually.
Oh yeah.
And not for reasons you think. So, the Pacific Northwest. So I read into the thread. So originally it was like, some people think the CIA is up there like killing neo-Nazis, but it led into something more interesting than that. Apparently, there's a lot of rumors like in Alaska of let's see. Look up the FBI reports sometime on the number of Alaskan Native women and foreign women that are found in the wilderness up there, partially skinned. The FBI reports that there are most likely companies or groups that will charter planes and guides to take people out to rape these individuals. They've had this theory since the 70s. Not to mention the controversy surrounding Todd Palin, who was involved, yeah, he's related to Sarah Palin, who was involved in a human trafficking operation, but the charges got mysteriously dropped.
That's fucked.
There's a lot of like human trafficking and disappearances in Alaska, and it happens so often like the FBI thinks it's like industrial.
And
Probably
I
is.
cannot wait for us to go on a deep dive on that.
I'm trying to look into the Todd Palin body smuggling thing. Let's see.
Todd Palin, American oil field production operator, commercial fisherman, first gentleman of Alaska. What does that mean? From 2006 to 2009. Husband of former Alaskan Governor Sarah Palin.
Okay, so Todd Palin's also been like randomly beat up by people in the past for weird reasons.
Well, I mean, if he was involved in human trafficking, I suppose he deserves it.
I can't find anything that's blatantly saying that though, which it might be X schizophrenia, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well,
What we should do is look at those FBI inquiries on like human trafficking in Alaska, and we can go from there next.
Yeah, I'm about to say, this is definitely a season 2 episode in on itself. God, I cannot wait for that. Human cloaca.
Based.
But what is it?
It looks like it was added by you, Sinaticus. Did you fucking put human cloaca?
Nope. I have no idea what the fuck a cloaca even is.
Oh, it's a rare disorder a human can get.
A cloaca Sinaticus is an orifice on a bird. It both shits
Okay.
and pisses and comes through that single hole.
Let me show you some.
It also lays eggs.
In movie night, this is a typical human abdomen cross-section. You can clearly see the urethral, vaginal, and anal tracts. But in rare cases of birth defect, much like geese, it'll merge into one singular egg.
That's gotta be hell.
Yeah, that's gotta
It's
be
pretty
hell.
self-explanatory. I guarantee you they die fairly quickly because permanent UTI much.
Yeah, no kidding.
Although it is surgically treated in the modern day, which I guess that.
That's unfortunate.
Oh god, there's pictures. No thanks. Gore doesn't bother me, but there's something about like surgical things that really fuck with me.
Yeah, same. The universal mind is not sane.
Well,
I mean,
as
Yeah.
you could probably tell, it's what we call an ungoogleable phrase. You're not gonna find shit if you look that up.
Okay, then Google universal mind.
It's talking about the unconscious, isn't it? The collective?
Sort of the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
But if the collective unconscious is, if you're saying that it's real, it would be a level of consciousness that's beyond what we understand consciousness. So to try to categorize it as sane or insane is kind of a misnomer, right? Because those categories wouldn't even apply to it, because that's sort of human convention.
Of course, then again, in a way, it's also made out of other human minds.
Well, right, but it would be on a level that we wouldn't be able to categorize, because what we know of as consciousness would not apply to it. It would be so far above.
Fair. Although I'm not sure if it would be too far. Hey, Google.
What behaviors of a universal unconscious would you consider sane? You don't know, because you don't know what the normal behaviors of that even would.
Yeah, I remember I was discussing with Orson once why psychology, history, and other stuff like that aren't actual sciences, and I said, Orson, if you can point to me to the test brain, the brain upon which is nothing but the default in which we can compare everything to you, I will eat one of my yarmulkes and declare that psychology is a science. It's kind of the same principle here. There's nothing else to compare it to.
It's based on early psychology is the problem, I think.
Which isn't
Earlier.
real science. So.
Right. But I think that's the basic. That's my take on it anyway.
Yeah.
I understand what they were going for, but if you're looking at universal collective unconscious, I don't think that labels of sane or insane would apply to it.
I don't think so either. Original doll.
This one has been being built up by Baph for very long, but he's
It's something I've offhandedly referenced. Now, a couple months ago, we listened to it while you weren't here, so I'd like to apologize for that. Well, but it's an early 2000s song by Britney Spears. It was a single she released without talking to her manager. She released it completely independently by going to a radio station in the middle of the night and telling the producers, hey, you should put this on the air, I'll even do an interview for you. After the fact, she kind of disappeared from the public eye for a little while. And anyone who's familiar with like 2000s culture will tell you, after the fact, she gradually descended into insanity. And even to this day, she lives basically in house arrest.
Well, wasn't there, she was working on an album called Original Doll 2.
Correct.
That was the title track.
Correct.
That never got released.
Right, so the song that was released, called Original Doll, you can find it on YouTube, was a single out of an album. When she released this single, the studio canceled the entire album. The song was never formally released, but you can find it on iTunes nowadays. And she later released a song called Original Doll, which is completely different than the first one. So they kind of tried to cover that up.
Wasn't the lyrical content of the original one also kind of spooky?
The lyrical content of the original one, it's kind of hard to say because Britney Spears has always been kind of edgy, but that was certainly her first song that was grim. It was grim, really, because it talked about how the singer's unnamed handlers are like wanting her to go crazy.
Oh yeah. Which is interesting considering that's what happened.
Oh yeah, and there's even like you can watch like news interviews of like I think I can bring a video up. You can find videos of like news interviewers talking to her, and she'll just randomly start crying out of nowhere as if she glitched. Hold up.
Fucking Monarch programming, god.
Let's see.
Yeah, any celebrity that's in the modern music industry, I think, is rife for the conspiracy theory shit, because there's so much weird stuff that happens to them. in regards to public image and the release of work and where the money is, handlers, how much of it is like pre-planned and shit like that.
It is very unsettling. I'm a huge fan of the whole Miley Cyrus died like 10 years ago theory.
Well, that's like insane, bro. That's not.
No, it's not. It's not insane.
Sinaticus, you're an insane universal mind. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna continue to tell you how Miley Cyrus was bought out into the desert after not putting out to the producers, shot in the head and then buried and replaced by a doppelganger.
Yeah, it's really weird that like pop stars always end up
Sorry,
being
what?
like in
Hold up.
conspiracies. But the Britney Spears one, I legitimately have problems with because the timing's really perfect, and you can't really fake schizophrenia. She legitimately went crazy, and they forced her to stay in her house. Like she's still there; she can't leave.
Solar diet.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, solar diet is like breatharianism, right? Isn't it like you can survive only on like sun energy or something? Like you don't have to eat or drink, you can survive entirely from like the energy that you get from sunlight.
Imagine trying to survive exclusively off Kundalini energy.
Well, the thing is, I found something about a solar diet right here, and he claims that. What is this? Drinking 4 ounces of aloe vera juice a day. Principles of the solar diet: eat with the sun. Early in the day, eat fruits and nuts. Eat alkaline producing foods. At lunch, eat foods that grow closer to the ground as the solar energy is falling there as noon and afternoon arrive. In the evening, eat foods that grow under the ground, such as potatoes, carrots, beets, and onions. So it seems to be more based on particular time of when the sun is around, and then I guess they're translating that into how a food grows.
Now that's interesting. However, there's a problem. I didn't hear raw fish to be anywhere in that diet, and I really love sushi.
Breakfast choices.
Well, one thing I really wish for is a really well done, in-depth, verifiable documentary. Where someone just goes in, they find like a breatharian or a solar diet person, they say, we're just gonna film you do that diet for a period of time and see what happens to you. And we're gonna keep filming so we make sure you're not cheating or anything, and we're just gonna see what happens and see if you're full of shit.
Do they switch out cameramen whenever they need to go eat or drink?
No. That's what I mean, though, is that I would want it to not be like that. I want it to be real, because there are these people that claim that these diets work, and, you know, I'm not going to say that they don't offhand, because I haven't seen evidence that they don't, but I would want to see someone try it, verify it.
Well, I would tell you, Boson, but all the people who tried this diet have died. So, we can't verify whether or not it worked.
Alright, quick question. What layer are we on?
McMazing.
McMazing.
Alright.
Alright, next one up.
If you look in movie, Baph posted a screenshot of someone asking the question. The 1890 census, the 1890 U.S. census, a mysterious fire in 1921 destroyed the 1890 census record.
Would you say the fire was mysterious or just an accident? Furthermore, the problem with this, from like an intrigue point of view, is that in order for me to care, there has to be something about the 1890 census that would be mysterious in the first place.
There is.
Was there a racial demographic that was reported in 1888 but not 1900?
Well, here's the thing with 1890. The late 1880s, early 1890s, even the late 1890s, were a very tumultuous time in U.S. politics. It was the crash of 1893. And yeah, racial demographics was a bit of an issue as we were entering the 19th century, because that was right in the middle of the
Reconstruction era.
Well, yeah, the Reconstruction era, but that was right in the height of the movement of blacks from like the rural South into urban areas. That was right when that was happening.
Oh, that does remind me. It's not 1890, but there actually was a documented case of a like an African American in like Louisiana that was actually pretty prosperous. There was a riot, and they all died, and they were buried, and it was like wiped from the history books until recently.
I find it interesting that the fire destroyed it only like 20 years later.
What's the thing, though? I mean, you have to point at 1890 as something significant.
Well, I just
You need. So I would look at the 1889 census and the 1891 census and see if something is out of.
They do a census once every 10 years.
Once every 10 years? Alright, so look at the 1880 and then the 1900 census and see what changed.
Right, but this is the turn of the century. So much changes in 2020 that we have no record of any of that happening because a single fire destroyed all of it. They're not available to the public.
What are your theories on that? Do you think they like deplatformed wealthy black people to push an agenda? Do you think they like falsely reported statistics on the West Coast? Like, what?
I'm not saying I know because I don't have access to the record.
I mean, it's fascinating, but there's nothing to it that makes it, worth looking into.
I literally just told you what makes that 20-year period significant when it refers to.
I don't know, man. The Gilded Age is pretty slow.
The crash of 1893 is one of the worst economic disasters in the country. And
Okay, so that's the thing.
The transference of the black population from the south into northern cities is one of the most significant demographic changes in the American.
That happened in the 20th century, and the 1897 crash was after the census was taken. I don't see how 1897.
There was a crash in 1893.
Okay.
Not
Okay, so the census wouldn't have had data on that because it was published in 1890.
But the underlying causes for that disaster were because there was the silver and gold standard movement that were happening at the time, and that was going on for like 5 or 6 years beforehand.
Okay, Judge Boy, what do you think?
I'd say that Boson has a point, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily as big of a point as he makes it out to be.
Well, again, not to mention the demographic shift from blacks from the south into northern cities. One of, again, the most significant demographic shifts in American history, which would only have been recorded in the 1990 census, is not available. We have no record of that on like the specifics of as that was happening.
I mean, to me personally, it's not remarkable.
How many of these things have you fucking said that? Are you just maybe you're just a boring person?
No, I mean, like this. I mean, this is certainly way more interesting than Cotton Eye Joe. But 1890 to me is just not a significant year.
Yeah, because you weren't alive in 1890.
No, it's not even that. It's like historically speaking, the Gilded Age was very culturally interesting, but like 1890 census disappearing, and if you were to find the 1890 census, you would not significantly change anything. It's just one of those niche little fun facts. Hey, did you know that the 1890 census is gone? I mean, okay, that's cool, I guess.
Really happened in the 1890 census, blah blah blah.
Alright, I guess we'll move on to Mel Lehman family.
Alright, this is apparently a musician and a writer. He eventually founded something called the Mel Lyman family, or the Lyman family. It's not an actual family to my knowledge, but it's a group of artists living in something called the Fort Hill community. Now, a lot of people have claimed that they're cults, or that they do all sorts of sketchy stuff in there. A lot of hippie culture, apparently, they took a couple of hints from that, or they at least shared some. Let's see. Prior experimenting with LSD and marijuana and Lyman's cosmic millennialism. someone claims that they were actually anti-hippie, but I'm not seeing any evidence one way or the other. No, wait. Female members dressed and behaved conservatively, and male members wore the hair relatively short by the standards of the era. According to both Felton and Kinsman, Lyman discouraged sexual activity and at least once ordered a pregnant member to get an abortion. And this was in 1963. This was in Boston.
Huh.
We're all enthusiasts for LSD.
Yeah. The year of Garda.
Okay, well, the Garuda is a legendary bird or wood-like creature in Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain mythology. This king of the birds. The year of the Garuda refers to a book written about Mothman. Once again, it's the name of a book that we can't access because we have to. Assuming what it's doing is drawing a parallel between the figure of Mothman and the ancient Hindu figure of Garuda, this bird god. Because the Mothman. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a Hindu god, and it's so ambiguously described that we're not really get anywhere with it.
Right. Well, many people believe Mothman to be like part of this thing where he predicts disasters, and that was another thing that Garuda was known for, that it predicted disasters with his presence. Other than that, there's not a lot of her.
Yeah.
Once again, though, I would say not black it because we have to read the book to know what he's talking.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right.
T-
I'm sure we're all familiar with Tared.
I'm not actually.
No, I'm not.
It's one of the first Iceberg things from a long time ago, and you'll probably remember with the jumps. It's a very true story about not a Japanese dude, a European man who arrived at a Tokyo airport in '54. The problem with the story is that his passport was from a place that didn't exist. The company that approved the passport didn't exist. His bank info didn't exist. However, all the documentation was like sensible, so they didn't think it was counterfeit. But the place he claimed to be from, Tared, did not exist. And this caused a bit of some alarm at the airport. It's a great story, but the problem is there's no proof of the passport. They never took a picture of. He claimed Tared was between Spain and France, where the current country of Andorra is located. The following morning, the man from Tared completely vanished from his hotel room, which had been guarded by immigration officials. And to make matters worse, all of his personal documents, including his passport and license, issued by the mysterious country, were no longer present in the airport's security. And in movie night, a very scientific article has two explanations.
Can I get a link? Because the second one says temporary dimensional rift. So.
Okay, this is not a scientific article. It's just something that goes over the gist. But, let's see. The Tared story, it does come from the Japanese government from a while back.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just made up on Reddit one day. Also, if you Google Tared and you scroll down to page 2, you get like an SCP link.
Well, we're not interested in SCP. I don't even know what that is, Baph.
So either the Japanese guards were like pulling a cheeky one, or some dude disappeared with weird.
I'm I'm going with option B. Some guy from some alternate world disappeared. The CIA's gone.
I mean, that's the sensible option. I mean,
Oh, obviously. Obviously. Eating food makes you age.
exactly what it sounds like.
And
Yeah, pretty
there's
much.
nothing.
I mean, is it technically wrong?
Okay,
No.
so technically speaking, you eat food, and because of that, you age. You could argue that food makes you age. However, theoretically speaking, you age without eating food. It's just the consumption of food allows you to continue to age.
But it also allows you to continue to live.
Well, by living, you're also aging.
Yeah, by living, you're aging. So I guess it's not okay. So it's wrong, but it's not wrong.
Yeah.
Californian Oxygen Therapy Group did JFK.
There's a lot of controversy around this one because many on Apple have claimed this is actually two different ones and not a single conspiracy theory. I can't place a split anywhere, so I'm just going to have to assume that it's just because California Oxygen is not substantial enough, and Therapy Group to JFK means. So I don't. Okay, here we go. I actually found something.
Do it better than me.
Alright, so suggested by California Oxygen Therapy advocate Waves Forrest ties together all the political assassinations with arranged deaths like Jimi Hendrix. It's hard to do justice in a paragraph, but here goes. The Kennedys, King, and all were murdered by a conspiracy whose object is to lower world oxygen. Since the Industrial Revolution, atmospheric oxygen levels have been steadily dropping. The decrease has meant a resurgence of anaerobic organisms like the tetanus virus, which had been going extinct in prehistory as world oxygen. The advent of humanity, whose deforestation and fossil fuel burning have reduced atmospheric oxygen, was a boon to the bacteria as oxygen. Microbes flourish best in the oxygen-poor urban centers where most of the world's political power is concentrated. The microbes have parasitically influenced the brains of the business political establishment. Now, every time a progressive politician or culture figure arises who might change the status quo, i.e. slow down the race to denude the earth, the establishment perceives that figure as a threat, and assassination is arranged. The point of Forrest's parable is that the degreening of the earth can only benefit anaerobic organisms in the long run, so they must be in on it. Holy fuck.
Alright.
So
Did you get that one, Sinaticus?
I got it, but I still working on processing it.
mind controlling bacteria.
Dumbest shit I've ever heard in my whole life.
I don't know, Google. There's some interesting bacteria.
There are some very interesting bacteria, you're right, but like, none of them
Actually,
are.
there is mind controlling bacteria. Cats have a certain degree of one that actively control mice to bring them back to other cats. It's called toxoplasmosis. So there is bacteria that can quite literally control the mind.
This is a bit complex. More complex than that.
Well, no. It's on a fundamental same scale.
Really? I think it's notably larger scale and requires the bacteria to have a knowledge of.
That's classified information, Google Chrome. So Boson, are they trying to corner the oxygen market? Is that the idea, or are they trying to make a scarcity?
No, they're anaerobic organisms. That means non-oxygen breathing organisms, like the
Okay.
tetanus virus. And the theory postulates that these bacteria and anaerobic organisms have taken control of the brains of the most powerful people on Earth and are conspiring together to lower the Earth's oxygen level so that they can thrive. Because they don't breathe oxygen and they thrive in environments where there are low oxygen levels. So the assassinations of people like John F. Kennedy are done because his policies would have raised the global oxygen level, so they arranged him to...
see.
in order to continue lowering the oxygen.
What a great RPC idea. I hope no one steals that.
I sure as hell won't.
Utbor babies.
It's a meme. Looking movie night.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Bin Laden's still alive.
Snowden said it, so a lot of people believe it.
Yeah. There's one of the most legit conspiracy theories of our age that Bin Laden never died, for a variety of good reasons. Through no fault of journalists' own, doubts about his death were fueled by the U.S. military's disposal of his body at sea, the Supreme Court decision that supported the state not releasing any information about the event, repeated denials of the Freedom of Information Act, and, let's see, and the 25-minute blackout from the soldiers' helmets during the actual raid itself. There was a journalist, Seymour Hersh, a fellow who has been working in journalism for some 40 years. He claimed that the Pakistani intelligence agency has kept bin Laden under house arrest since 2006, that the U.S. had learned of bin Laden's location through Pakistan and not through tracking a courier, and that elements of the Pakistani military aided the U.S. in relocating bin Laden. However, he was not allowed to publish his report. The White House swiftly denied him.
If he wasn't allowed to publish his report, how do we know about it?
He wasn't allowed to publish his report to the press, but you can find it online.
There's actually a list of audio documents, images, and videos released for the Abbottabad compound.
There was a video that the Pakistani media released, but it was proven fake not too long after. Not calling the operation a fake, but the one people are familiar with was a fake. The actual video of him getting shot does not exist, and if it does, we can't have it. The fact that the government denies people the right to access it is suspicious. You'd think you'd want to kinda parade that accomplishment.
Yeah.
Considering 10 years prior, we showed pictures of like Saddam Hussein's mutilated body.
Yeah.
Yeah, this really
seems that improbable.
this really does feed into my theory that bin Laden like wasn't even a person for like after the 9th, because there's just virtually no information about him that exists after like 1996.
Alright. I buy it. Bin Laden's still alive, man. No compliance security.
I've actually looked at this one. It's on X thread, so you know it's legit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me read it out. No offense to you, from your voice is kind of annoying, so I'm gonna read it.
I know.
Just kidding, Fred, but I'm gonna read it. No compliant security, or NCS, was an experimental prison security. NCS was a joint effort between pharmaceutical giant Pfizer, 12 participating state behavioral facilities, Harvard Medical School, and Stanford University. USP Florence ADMAX was selected as the corrections facility that would hold the first null-compliant security prison. The NCS was built in 1997 as an added wing to the maximum security prison. In the null-compliance prison, with the use of 8 medications and therapeutic stimulation, prisoners were rehabilitated to nearly completely nonviolent behavior without the use of sedative. Prisoners are carefully monitored and are helped by nurses and prison staff with day-to-day activities. Prisoners are kept on the medication and therapeutic stimulation to maintain their acceptable behavior for 40 days. Afterward, complete behavioral shifts are permanent after 40 to 50. Prisoners then become null patients, where they are kept under federal care as mental. After 10 years and handling 840 prisoners, the NCS prison wing was closed in 2007. Null patients remain under federal care. You got that?
Yeah.
That's some intense shit.
And then nobody says anything of value in the comments. Honestly, that also kind of makes sense.
Anyway, plastic surgery runaways.
That one's pretty straightforward. I think there's a form of crime out there where you get your face changed and then you run away without paying, so you're virtually a new person.
You'd think that they charge first, though.
Or at least take a picture before letting the anesthesia wear off.
I don't know about that one. Seems a little too cartoony. Grain situation.
The grain situation is an apocalyptic theory. More specifically, in the Grey Goo line and type. Now, supposedly, it involves the development of genetically modified crops, GMOs, and these crops are engineered to be resistant to pesticides, insects, and extreme temperatures. They don't need as many nutrients, and the eventual part is that it goes wild and covers the entire surface. It would be impossible to get any other type of grain or any type of other crop to grow. That's the idea. Now, the podcast that I'm reading it says that it could lead to famine, fires, and even an ice age as the fires produce massive quantities of CO2 in the atmosphere. But what are the odds of this happening? Blah, blah, blah. Sorry to advertise, but I found it here.
Hook operators.
This one comes to you from the book Operators and Things, The Inner Life of a Schizophrenic by a schizophrenic by the name of, hold on, let me get the author name, Barbara O'Brien. She references visions of these creatures called hook operators that exist. The image that she describes is that everybody has like hooks embedded in their back with strings that go up. At the end of the ropes are the hook operators that, move the strings in order to move people. Or this basic idea that the hook operators are unseen entities that have complete control over lives of the people that are attached to the hooks, basically.
So basically,
is what I glean from.
So basically, a schizophrenic's version of Cartesian dualism.
Sounds a lot like that movie Brand, only except slightly less cartoonish.
That's what I'm getting from this, is Cartesian dualism only for schizophrenics.
I mean, Brand is pretty schizophrenic when you think about it.
Yeah. Micro-nukes.
These are interesting.
That has to do with, like, 9/11 conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it does? Not the ones I found.
What'd you find?
Well, most ones I've found are the threats of nuclear bombs like the size of trucks and like potential terror attacks against U.S. cities.
I'm not sure if those are miniature.
Well, that's as small as you can get a nuke, really, if you're a terrorist organization. But, like, government organizations could theoretically get one the size of a briefcase.
I don't know, it seems pretty far-fetched.
I mean, there are things like suitcase nukes. I mean, the concept exists. But that's not what it's hinting at. It's hinting at, like, last time we did micro nukes, it tied into a 9/11 theory that they nuked the buildings.
Okay. Based off what?
Based off the fact that firefighters were exposed to unusually high amounts of uranium. To this day, I don't think that's a solved case.
Well, you know, it's 3.6 Roentgens. It's not bad, but it's not terrible.
Remember, some of these like gaslight at events rather than being literal.
Baby monitor portals. What the fuck did I just read?
Try that again.
No, that's what it says. Baby monitor portals.
Just make sure I heard it right.
Yep.
Boson, what's 4chan say?
Well, they're referring to the phenomenon where people hear strange sounds and voices through their baby monitor. Don't know how that refers to portals, but that is a very common thing that people
Yeah.
Oh,
say,
really?
hear voices in baby monitors and strange.
Well, that's just because they're really like cheap and sensitive radios. They pick up every.
Hey, listen. I'm gonna have a request for you, Baph. Could you not fucking just buzzkill every single time?
I'm sorry, we have to be honest, okay? Not everything has to be a big meme with reptiles.
Okay, so you have a baby in a bedroom, right? A baby in an empty. You hear the voice of a deep man talking on the fucking baby. What is that?
I know it's like your paternal. I know it's like your paternal instinct to like assume it's a monster, but I'm fairly certain it's picking up radio waves because they're really cheaply.
Can baby monitors pick up radio waves now?
Yes,
If you don't
they're,
mind, I would
they're
like
very
to
cheap.
actually have some input for this.
They're very cheap radios. That's what a baby monitor is, and they can accept interference.
If you don't mind, I'd like to actually have some input for this one. See, a while back I got a really shitty made gaming chair that, whenever I turned it on, would pick up radio waves itself for some reason, despite not being a
Gaming
radio.
chair? The chair picked up radio waves?
Yeah, I don't know why it did that. It wasn't a radio at all.
Like the fuck? What would you like lean back on the metal bar and hear like B101.5 or something?
No, I heard sports radio. So, like,
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean,
I know it's not
radio
a
waves,
possibility.
Radio waves are really weird, and I think the baby monitors just conducted them sometimes. It's not paranormal in the slightest.
I would say that radio waves can actually be a medium for paranormal, though.
I mean, sure. If you remember that Iceberg thing where a radio station got hijacked by a lady that read out like obituary. When it comes to radio, I always think it's an elaborate hoax. It's really easy to fake that.
He's got a good point. I'll tell you what, Boson, though, we'll keep it for now.
Ugh, black it, come on.
Haunted Tokyo Apartments.
I mean, what can be said about this?
There is a disproportionately high number of like ghost sightings in Japan, according to Japanese. They're very superstitious people. I mean, we should take it with a grain of salt.
Right. But, like, is it just, like,
But-
specific apartments?
I am, of course, reminded of that one Japanese tunnel where people keep disappearing, and now that's good shit, and they think it's paranormal. I'll buy into.
Hold on. According to this isn't even a ghost. It's not really that related to ghosts. It says basically in Japan there's a serious housing issue with people moving out of places due to them being haunted. Inner city apartment buildings are especially notorious for this. Some have been almost cleared out by hysteria over ghosts. Some say it's engineered to drive the market. Others say the haunted apartments and the driving away of living people is turning certain areas into literal ghost.
So it's superstition.
Yeah, this idea is popular in Japan that ghosts might take over the urban landscape.
Maybe the ghosts spread the rumor so that they could have somewhere to live.
It is a bit of an economic issue, though, because now there are entirely abandoned apartment buildings in the middle of Tokyo that people just won't move into because they think.
Wow. Where's the
I mean-
Japanese sense of adventure?
Don't Shinto priests usually perform exorcisms though?
I don't know. Apparently not.
Huh. Let's see.
And the thing is that, like, Tokyo is one of the most densely populated places on the planet. It's as big as occupied Palestine, so, like, you can't really afford...
You mean liberated Palestine?
It's... Like, you really can't be wasting space like that.
Well, yeah. Well, like they said, at what point does it just become that it's this superstition is so widespread that the entirety of Tokyo?
It's interesting. The Mulcasian paradigm.
Yeah, all the research I tried to do on this just gave me ads.
This refers to a
and
belief.
scams.
This refers to a belief that ideas championed by Dr. Carter Malcasian demonstrate increasingly intense reptilian efforts to control human affairs, particularly in the Mediterranean and Middle Eastern area. Dr. Malcasian is believed by proponents of his theory to be reptilian royalty with an R, king.
No, I found something completely different on this one. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Go ahead.
It says it's a theory created by a user named someone named KV Malka, who put forward the idea that because the spread of information is ever increasing and accelerating in the rate of, like the spread of that the number of possible scenarios that could exist on Earth is slowly decreasing. Because of that, scenarios are starting to repeat themselves because we're running it. So you have things like things that happened in movies happening in real life, and things that were predicted coming to pass, and things just basically.
Oh, so like there's, I mean, that's not really out of the ordinary. Because there are so many people with active imaginations, you're gonna find an increasing number of coincidences and.
Well, there's this mathematical idea that we can run out of possible scenarios that, like mathematically speaking, there's definitely a finite amount of things that can occur. What happens when all of those have occurred already? They just start repeating themselves.
That's pretty based, if you ask me.
Sinaticus, what do you think?
I've never really been a fan of the whole finite scenarios projection of ideas. For one, it doesn't make much sense to me. We live in this convenient space that is supposedly infinite within a omniversal theory as projected by M-theory that is also infinite. Well, that would have to logically imply that the events that could occur within such an infinite space are in on itself infinite.
Right, but when you're talking about process of information, the amount of the information that we can process as humans is made up of like bits that only have a finite number of combinations.
Right. So all it would take to make these scenarios go up is to introduce new information. I'll give you an example. I hate to give you this example because I was talking about it last night with you. But I highly doubt that any Renaissance scholar, or even for that matter, ancient Japanese person, could have ever invented the idea of Godzilla. Right? And so, to them, the scenario of Godzilla was not within the possible range of outcomes of events.
See, well, I don't really believe that though. Legends of like big monsters have existed generations. I think that it's necessarily just because it's an allegory for the nuke means that it could not have existed before the nuclear bomb was.
No, you obviously would have gotten slightly different renditions, but that's why I specifically mentioned Godzilla. The idea of Godzilla would not have occurred. So, I think that so long as new information keeps coming in, so long as we keep coming up with new ideas, and so long as the human race continues to change, the amount of available information will always change. It'll always increase.
But as the speed at which information is communicated, and will there ever be a point at which we run out of new information?
Well, maybe it would take an alien race to introduce new information, or maybe it would have us go to the stars to get new information. My point is that infinite universe equates to infinite, at least in theory, infinite info, and therefore the idea that the number of scenarios could be finite within an infinite system, to me, it just doesn't make a logic.
But information in our heads is represented. This combination of different neurons that are fired. How many different combinations of neurons firing are possible? And once we reach that, there's no more new information that we can.
Well, for now, yeah, it's limited, but like our brains change, we evolve. So we might have new neurons in the future, which will then enable more combinations.
Alright, well, now that you have to decide whether or not to black it, you get to choose whether or not to use that one or the reptilian Middle East thing.
Oh yeah, well, I'll tell you what, we'll keep it unblacked and we'll explore both in Season 2. Fun fact, the bottom half of the iceberg is the least blacked section, so, turned out really good.
Well, yeah, because they saved all the good shit for the top and bottom.
Yeah, pretty much.
DPKR defectors lied.
Basically, this is a form of tanky rhetoric. People who fled North Korea lied about the conditions there, so the West would not be aware of the utopian state of affairs that exists there.
It comes back.
If it's so utopian, why'd they leave?
Well, that
to hide the
utopian.
Well, they didn't leave. That's the thing, right? So what happens is, according to these theories, is they get international attention as a quote-unquote defector. They spread the rhetoric, oh my god, he's got death camps. And then you never hear about them again because they go back.
Well, again, what is their motivation for lying about it?
From my guess, publicity.
Right, but the publicity ultimately amounts to nothing because they just go back.
Yeah.
And then they're never in the public eye again. So
Oh wait, I was thinking of the other
is it that the North Korean government wants to hide the utopian state of the system? Again, in which case, for what?
100%.
So that no one else can get into the sweet pie that is the.
It's literally the same logic as the "No Girls Allowed" sign on the treehouse.
Can't believe North Korea is fucking Wakanda.
It literally is. But this is not a very interesting one because it's just look at a satellite picture.
I'm about to say, if it's such a utopia, why do my satellite images?
Well, you see, they all live underground in giant retractable buildings.
Oh.
It's like Wakanda. They just live underneath a very, very good concealment
Yeah.
with a bunch of fake cities.
Earth, a series of concentric spheres.
If you look in voice, it sums it up for you real nice. TLDR, the Earth is the center of the universe, and all of its functions orbit around it, as God and...
Now, Baph, I think you're wrong. I think it means concentric spheres in the hollow Earth sense, that there are multiple layers of Earth underneath the one we're on. Which is why I plan on blowing your fucking mind and telling you that in theory, if there is a structure constructed of a series of atlas pillars, it is indeed possible to have a hollow Earth made of concentric spheres.
What is it, Atlas?
An atlas pillar is exactly what you would imagine it is. It's a pillar that's lifting up a huge fucking object.
The problem I have with Hollow Earth is that you really can't conceal the fact that there's a hidden civilization under the crust.
Unless the crust is.
Well, if you hide it deep enough, you certainly can.
I don't know, cuz
We haven't actually mapped out, or even really know the essence.
If it's below the depth of the super deep of the Kola super deep borehole, then we would have no idea that it exists.
that's the thing. The crux of these theories generally points as the entrance being at a pole. And we've checked Antarctica. We haven't found any Batman bases. And if we have, and the state isn't
this
reporting
is the
on
whole
it,
thing with this is the whole thing with conspiracy theories, right? Is that they say they've checked Antarctica, but have you checked it?
oh, have you been to Mars? How do you know it's real if you haven't been to Mars? No, I don't like that logic. It's so.
Have you seen that photograph from the newspaper where there's like a giant hole in the Arctic? I posted it.
That's
It'll
the
probably be-
of the globe.
It'll probably be hell to find, but there is like that image in an old newspaper from above the Arctic, and it's just a huge hole there.
It's not an official picture.
So, my only
Certainly
take on
looks
this is that, at the very least, theoretically speaking, it's not impossible.
Listen, gentlemen, the Sea Peoples were secretly the Antarctic civilization. They retreated under the crust after the Roman Empire collapsed.
Zoo heterophius.
Zoo heterotropias appear to be a very complex thing that I can't really.
I don't see anything for. I see heterotopia. I see zoo.
Do you guys have anything on? There's an article about it on ResearchGate, which means it's legit, but I have no idea what it means.
It says zoos are heterotopias.
Alright, well, what does that mean? Look at it.
Like, so, for example, it says a zoo is a heterotopia because animals like lions and jaguars are also there with like polar bears and penguins and stuff, whereas normally they wouldn't be there.
Well, what's a heterotropia?
That's it's a real place which exists outside of a known space, according to a
What?
summary. That is, thank you.
Sinaticus, Baph, Judge Boy, like.
I'm just
Let's go to
utterly.
the next one, bud.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
I
You want to
was
know
this
what?
guy.
Let's just zoop, and then
That
head
was
over
high
to the
as
next one.
fuck.
Antarctic staircase.
Got it.
This is interesting. I like this one.
I hope you have an image, Baph. It's one that you should
I
have.
have two from a conspiracy Twitter, but it was backed up by thesun.co.uk. Anyway, they discovered the picture on the bottom on Google Earth, a weird like abrasion. Now this perfectly lines up with the top picture, where the gravity in Antarctica is slightly fucky.
Oh,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
certainly looks like a staircase.
So the news channel reached out to the people who found it on Google Earth, and they were like, "What do you think it is?" And having a cheeky giggle, he said, "Strictly high-tech demonic activity."
Strictly high-tech demonic activity.
well, the source I found said it was like an old Nazi base when they were exploring Antarctica, which it sounds a bit stupid, but maybe they were up in Antarctica.
They wanted the Navy to go investigate it, but they obviously declined.
Oh, by the way, as an aside, this isn't super related, but you know that picture I said of like the hole in Antarctica captured by satellites?
Yeah.
I found that image.
All right.
Right? That's like fake, ain't it?
Well, I don't know. It was in a newspaper. Looks real enough to me, but that's not what we're talking about. What's next
Yeah.
on the thingy?
Alright, Jesus was an Anunnaki. Now, for those who don't know what Anunnaki is, the Anunnaki are the gods of the Sumerian epic. Sumerian epic? I'm gonna go ahead and say Sumerian epic, and if I'm wrong, I'm just gonna look like a dumbass. It's a compound word, meaning it's comprised of two words, Anu and Naki, blood of Anu, or descendant of Anu. Anu, I'm assuming being the god of the Sumerian epic. So the claim purports that Jesus was an Anunnaki. I guess in all technicality that's true? He claimed to be the son of God, and if we were to assume that the idea of God would be universal, then you wouldn't be wrong. Well, I guess you could say it's technically true, but that's only from the universalistic standpoint that Anu of the Sumerian epic and Yahweh of the biblical epic are one and the same. Segregated internet-IP blocks.
This one is similar to empty internet with a slightly different, details. The internet is segregated. We all have Discord. There's a set number of people. You can imagine Discord split into quadrants. A set number of IP addresses can only access one block. There are people on the internet you will never meet because they're not functionally there. The internet is split up into multiple slices of pie, and IP addresses cannot go to back and forth.
Hey Baph, did you know that the internet is split up in multiple pieces of pie?
I hope it's pumpkin.
Did you know that it's actually split up in multiple pieces?
Are you going to post the map?
There is no map. What do you mean?
Yeah, there's a map.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Post it.
I'm posting it. Look in voice. These are the 4 sections of the internet that are IP blocked from each.
Oh God.
Now, I know for a fact that's not true. I've been able to reach, Korean sites. The fuck are you on about?
Well, you can reach them, but under normal circumstances, they are separated from each other by certain IP.
I don't think this is correct.
Well, here's what Boson means. Maybe it's a slightly less intense version of what I was saying. You can access these domains, but like 99.98% of the individuals in these zones, and they do not cross paths. The English internet, the best internet, by the way, objectively, does not come into contact with Southeast Asian internet. It can, but it doesn't. Almost never. This is just a natural human thing.
I like how it has Israel, Iran, India, and Pakistan as nuclear wasteland. Well, I mean, I access Israeli internet all the time, so I don't get why it would be labeled as such. I guess there's some validity. I get what you're saying. It's weird to me is all. All field radar trip screens.
I found literally nothing about that. It seems to me like it's just word salad.
Wow. Look at that word salad at the bottom of the fucking iceberg. Here we go. Sexual assault missiles. Boson, what is it? I want to know. Tell me.
Hold on. I have to get back to it. Okay. The United States, People's Republic of China, and the United Kingdom are 3 nations currently in possession of long-distance ballistic missiles with the ability to cause 2 effects. Effect 1 is to instill mass paranoia in females regarding the potential possibility of being sexually assaulted. Fact number 2 being overriding of the male's population's logic processing section, encouraging sexual advantages. The truly devilish fact about these devices is that many males are immune to this device's effect, but because most females are not, many are accused of sexual assault regardless. These devices have been tested in small capacity for years following the rise of social media, which in itself was invented to allow the governments involved in this project to observe the effects in an environment wherein the subjects are unaware they are being experimented on.
So the missile itself is not assaulting you, but the chemicals inside of it.
Yes.
Okay, see, that's not what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah,
Did you not think that?
Well, I was unironically hoping for a missile that when it landed released a gas that just made everyone want to fuck.
That's what I also thought.
No, I was thinking the missile itself would, like, insert itself and destroy it.
Insert itself. Yeah.
I was kind of thinking along that line.
Me too.
A bit of a letdown. Okay. Intelligence agencies use dream hacking.
Now hold on. I found the all-field radar trip screen.
Oh, you actually found that?
Yeah, it's a quote from a book apparently. The book is, let's see, it's chapter 4. Bester, the stars, my destination, Tiger, Tiger. It seems to be some type of... Stars, my destination, Tiger, Tiger. From William Blake's poem Tiger. Is a science fiction novel by Alfred Bester, first published in Galaxy magazines as a 4-part serial beginning in October 1956 issue. The Stars My Destination is, in one sense, a science fiction adaptation of Alexander Dumas's The Count of Monte Cristo. It is the study of a man completely lacking in imagination or ambition. However, foil, fate transforms wholly foil in an instant, shipwrecked in space, then abandoned by a passing luxury liner. Foil becomes a monomaniacal, sophisticated monster bent on revenge, wearing many masks, learning many skills. Revenge fantasy. Now for the radar... Oh, that was a bluff. Blah blah blah. That's all we know for a fact. But we've had vague reports about it. Unbelievable reports from reputable agents. If a fraction of our inferences are correct, higher E could make the difference between a victory or defeat. Nonsense. No war material has ever made that much a difference. No, I cite the fission bomb of... I cite the Null G anti-gravity installations of 2022. Talley's all-field radar trip screen of 2194. Material can often make the difference, especially when there's the chance of the enemy getting it first. So the best thing I can come up with is that it's some sort of... I can't find it anywhere else in the book, but it's probably in there somewhere. I guess it's a type of radar that's theoretically possible to be made, but has not currently been reached yet.
Alright.
Yeah,
Cool shit.
that's about it.
So what about intelligence agencies use dream hacking?
Well, much like a lot of the mind control stuff that's on the Iceberg, it's something that was attempted by the CIA back in the MK Ultra days. They tried to manipulate people's dreams through many different methods, with varying degrees of success. There are many people who reported that they committed acts based on events that occurred in their dreams that did not reflect anything that happened to them in their real lives, so they believe that their dreams were affected by some kind of mind control program. There's a PDF that I have that we can take a look at if you like. All sources cited, of course.
Alright. Guys, colors don't exist.
Yeah, this is you, Doc.
One hell of a transition, my dude.
I actually have some on this. This is actually science. This is not from ufology.com, okay? Color is a function of the human visual system, correct? It is not an intrinsic property. Objects do not have color. They give off light that appears to be color, which is different for every animal. Ergo, color is not real. It's just your mind putting a skin on an object.
I've heard like a little bit of a thing where when people are confused,
Yeah.
see the same color as the same thing. Like, is my red similar to your red?
Humans
we
have,
all watch Boson.
humans
I mean,
have the same color perception as each other, but other animals do not see the same color as we do. It's not an intrinsic property; it is a subjective property.
But that in itself just means that light and electromagnetic radiation are colors that we can't
Yes,
see.
that means by itself color isn't real. It's a human thing.
No, it means that color is real. We just don't have a proper grasp of it.
You're seeing the human branded like symptom of color. You're not actually seeing what it actually is.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's just
Then
the
what
way
is
the
it?
world is, though.
What is it actually?
We don't know, Karbon. It's impossible to tell.
Well, then what we perceive is real. The entire reality we perceive.
No, I understand. Like it might as well be reality if it only applies to us. But that's not
Gentlemen?
what we're here for.
Gentlemen,
What color actually is just different.
as much as I would love, trust me, to have a philosophical discussion on this, this ain't the philosophy chat recording. This is the Iceberg recording, so we're gonna move on from here. Sheet dryers, Tumo.
You're really gonna love this. And I mean really, really gonna love this one. So check out the link that I just posted. Comfy.html.
As healing bills again inflate to record levels this winter, I was inspired to try this crazy brain thought energy experiment. Imagine sitting in a room colder than the inside of your refrigerator, without any clothes on, with a sopping wet sheet draped over you for an hour. Are your teeth chattering? Just think about it. This is a regular sacred ritual of the Tumo, Inner Fire Monks of Tibet. But what is really unusual about their ritual is that they completely dry the sheets using nothing but the innate power of their brain and mind. Oh.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, this is a lot. Add to bookmarks and then close. So that's what a Tumo is.
It's comfy.
It's comfy. Yeah.
God, I love being freezing for an hour.
Yeah, I know, right? I sit down and sometimes I just freeze my balls off all the time. I can't help it.
Explains why they're monks.
KV Mulcus Alive.
Oh, that one's one of the made-up ones. Skip over it.
Alright, the Universal Ape.
Roots of Universal Communication System revealed in Great Ape Study. We think that in principle, great apes could be able to understand one another. Let's see. TLDR, they're forwarding that advanced mammals, so basically monkey and above, all share an identical form of communication.
Including or excluding humans?
Including humans. Humans and monkeys have like mutual body language. This really isn't a conspiracy. It's more of like a.
Yeah, I'm about to
low-key
say,
fun
this is
fact.
just like
This is a fun fact. That's all it is.
I think that's false because when you see in different cultures around the world, a thumbs up could be good or bad depending on.
Well, no. I'm not
monkeys
talking
don't
about
give you
gestures.
thumbs ups.
Not talking about gestures. I'm talking about Just there's human body language that is universal across cultures and reflects onto monkeys as well.
Smiling.
Like how when males are like trying to intimidate or flex, the arms are kind of spaced apart more than.
Yeah. Yeah, so like thumbs up don't count.
But I think that's with that it applies to all animals, or they try to.
No, it applies to mammals who have 2 arms and 2 legs of the monkey
Yeah, they're
variety.
just trying to make themselves look bigger. That's
Yeah.
how we work.
Yeah, so yeah, and it's different different per species, but what the article is mostly pointing at is that humans and monkeys can understand.
Hibernian NWO.
Strangely, I contacted Phelan about this and she refused to respond.
Really?
She might be in on it.
It certainly seems like.
Well, the Hiberians, to which I will post their logo, because you know, it's not interesting if it doesn't have a cool logo. Here we go. They're a group of Catholics that operate between Ireland and the US, and their sole job is to prevent people from disrespecting Catholics.
That's it?
They are still active to this day, and they were 1836.
You cut out and all you said was 1836.
Yeah, they were founded in 1836. They're still in effect today. I will post the link to their website.
Of course, due to the prevalence of Catholicism as the primary form of Christianity on the planet, I would say that perhaps the Hibernian society might have something to do with it.
Maybe.
Now, upcoming events. Saturday, October 19th at the Washington Marriott Center, National President's Dinner. 2020 National Convention in Orlando, Florida. And they have a lot of articles about the State Department.
I found something where someone claims they have found an initiation ritual and prayer. Posted in voice.
So these people are definitely a political interest group, and there's definitely something to it. I bet it's a rabbit hole if you look deep.
Maybe we'll get to look into that deeper. Anti-vax population control psyops - class warfare.
Alright, I'll make this one quick. Basically, anti-vax is spread as rhetoric by the upper class so poor people don't vaccinate their children, leading to more poor people dying.
And why would that benefit the upper class?
Well, because, you know, the middle class is the one that takes care of the upper class. The lower class really just does its own thing. They're not even a... The lower class just kind of feed themselves and occasionally buy trucks, you know. The consumer class, the middle class, that's the people they want to take care of. And it's no secret that a majority of our schizo posters are pretty low on the economic spectrum. Except for Phelan, she's exceedingly wealthy, but we're not going to talk about that.
Supposedly.
I mean, she has incredible handwriting and a 4K camera.
Yeah, but poor people have like $1,000 shoes, so.
Well,
Yeah,
poor
I'm about
people.
to say, we've got a lot of poor people who have like a lot of wealthy things. Just because you have a 4K camera don't make you wealthy.
If anything, we're still a consumerist culture.
Google Earth black zones.
Now, this one is fairly obvious. There are several parts of the globe that you cannot view on Google Earth. They are obscured by a black box. a number of reasons, but there are several that look especially suspicious.
There is one black zone. Pardon the YouTube thumbnail, but I do remember this one. A bunch of mountains have black spots on them, inexplicable.
Look at the little face. He's
I
so
feel like
shocked.
those are decoy.
It is interesting though. One that I found. One that I found. There's an island that is blacked out on Google Earth and is denoted as Sandy Island on Google Earth, but apparently the island does not exist. They have a little black spot there, and it's called Sandy Island in Google Maps, but it apparently does not physically exist. If there's nothing there, why would they need to black it out? A, B, why does it have a name that doesn't exist?
And why is the name in quotes? Now, the military fucks around in the Pacific a lot, so that's my first guess.
Well, I'm sure it's a military thing, but what it is exactly is what the...
It's probably like an oil platform with nuclear missiles strapped to it, you know?
Now you see, the
In
one
Indonesia.
with the time comparison is the one that concerns me the most. Where at one point you could have seen this mountain's face, but suddenly they've blacked it.
Yeah.
Apparently, a lot of people have tried making, what is this, Landsat had pictures of it, but it just shows up as not being there. Could have been some sort of, well, no, actually, I'm not sure if a ship would make that large of a problem.
Oh no, dude, that's like... No, that looks like 20 miles, like, square or some shit.
Check out this
Pretty
one for a
old,
second.
I think.
That's just literally just a black spot.
Fridge Hydrographic Service removed the island on its nautical charts in 1979. Public claims that the island did not exist began in April 2000 by amateur radio enthusiast D Expedition. They noted that it was shown on some maps, but not on others, such as the 1999 Times Atlas of the World 10th edition. Discovery of the island's absence was again made on 22nd of November 2012 by Australian scientists aboard the RV Southern Surveyor studying plate tectonics in the area. Now, in September around 14th, 1774, James Cook charted it. Apparently a snake or something along that line. At a different time, the whaling ship Velocity reported the island in 1876. So there's been a couple of times where it's been there and a couple times where it hasn't been there. But in recent times, it hasn't been there.
I've always found the Google black zones interesting. There's like a shit ton of them out in Siberia.
Yeah.
I'm told that you're going to be big on this one. Peltzer, South Carolina.
Peltzer, South Carolina is an interesting place. They say it has a population of around 1 to 2, but in every photo of the town you see it looks entirely abandoned, like no other. But that's not all. Of course, if that were all, that wouldn't be this much. Peltzer, South Carolina is a place where there are 5 different, entirely unrelated conspiracy theories that all converge on this one place. And it's very... Take Elsagate, for instance. You remember that?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You're breaking up, by the way.
No, he's not. He's fine.
Anyway, the Elsagate videos. Weird kids videos, people thought it was like government programming, brainwashing, or whatever. But the main thing with Elsagate was that the comments were strange. Some of them were encoded. And some of the encoded comments led to just a huge rabbit hole of like
coincidences and shit that eventually led to the coordinates for an abandoned building in Pelzer. If I recall, an Xanon did travel there because he lived close enough, but they never heard from him again. So, I mean, it's still unknown what's going on there. Not to mention that Pilsreski is also related to the Roanoke disappearance, if you can believe it.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Let me send you a picture.
Apparently, there's been a lot of stabbings there as well.
Right, but this stone was found in Pelzer. They dated that rock. Or they dated the incisions there at least to be around the time of the Roanoke disappearance. So they believe that it was carved by someone who lived at Roanoke, and they haven't translated it fully.
Ah, yes, the Roanoke stone.
Not to mention Pelzeresi was also involved in a scandal revolving around the Finders cult, which was a deep rabbit hole in and of itself, which was a nationwide cult that kidnapped and abused children in the 80s. There was a bunch of disappearances, and its FBI case was open and it's still unsolved. I'm surprised that it's not prevalent in modern media nowadays because it is an insane mystery, the Finders cult. But yeah, a lot of their...
Half the stuff that seems to be reported from Pelzer also seems to be related to drug activity in some way, or at least similar activities of covering
Of course. If you have, a poor town with not a lot of people in it, there could be drug problems.
You know, funny, I look up the Finders cult, and you know how normally you get, a Wikipedia page?
Yeah.
There isn't one.
I know.
Well, how about you make one? And see what happens to it.
Sinaticus disappears. We never hear from him.
Hey, we don't have to do the iceberg anymore.
So Pelzer, South Carolina, definitely a season 2 episode. Broder's Engine.
Browser. Hello.
Baph?
Are you here?
Yes.
Do you have a Tor browser?
Do I have a Tor browser? I do have a Tor browser.
Okay, this Broder's Engine, I found a link to it on X, but it's only a .onion link. Are you willing to go?
Not on a Windows computer, that's for sure.
Well, if it's linked on X and the post wasn't pruned, I don't think you'll get a AIDS virus. Anyway, here it is. I put it in movie night.
It's not showing up for me.
It's right there.
No, I meant on X.
Alright,
just go to movie night. Check it out.
Let me copy this link.
And I want you to investigate it because I'm very curious as to what the Broder's Engine is.
Are you telling me simple Google searches have revealed nothing?
I found some stuff on Google, but I still want you to check the Tor.
How about you tell us what you found on Google so we can verify?
Alright, well, what it says on Google is Broder's Engine is an engine that gathers energy directly from gravity. It works like shake lights. You put a copper coil around the magnet to generate electricity. Now put 1,000 of them on one side of a long lever. 3 magnets power a tipper that tips the lever over to electrolyze the coils. The other 997 give energy. Now make one the size of a warehouse and you can power a city. I didn't understand a word of it. Let me see if I can find a diagram.
CNN claims that apparently something called John Broder's drive, which I'm assuming is the same thing, was replicated in Tesla Model S.
I can't find anything on it. There's no Wikipedia article either.
We might have to set this up for another episode 2 because season 2, because the thing is deep web browsing.
No, the Broder's Engine is very straightforward. I was just hoping you could conveniently and quickly access that. If I remember correctly, there was a YouTube video that was obviously faked, but it was allegedly demonstrating how vibration could change matter's properties, right?
This doesn't have anything to do with vibration, though.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with vibration.
You're thinking of those videos that Bodhi linked of the Schanzhauser effect or whatever. He made the metal melt and float. Broder's engine says it relies on gravity.
Also, that's not a .onion link.
Okay, I don't care what it is. I can't put it into Google, so I'm just calling it the deep web onion link. I'm a boomer. I'm gonna do a deep web scan.
I will sit down and I'll save this link, but I don't know what browser you even use to connect with that.
Tor?
Nope. Tor is .onion. That ends with
Okay,
.clause.
let me link the thread then.
Alright. 7.
No, I found the thread. Hold on. No. This is important.
We can move on. You can just send it to me, Baph.
Okay, well here it is, and there's a bunch of onion links or whatever there.
Baph, it says it right here. Download Freedent.
Oh yeah. Oh, you need Ubuntu.
Alright. For Season 2, I will simulate an Ubuntu computer and we will take a look at this. I will put this in a file. Control V.
Hey, wait, that says Baph Meta.
Shut up, retard.
It does.
This actually might be fake, Baph.
Fake?
How to access Mariana's web, requiring a quantum computer,
Okay.
also known as Zion? Fuck out of here, this is gay
Joke.
fake.
It's a joke, but the links are genuine. I've seen shit like that before.
Act 13.
Well, that's it. I can just get a quantum computer. It's that easy.
Oh yeah,
Baph,
of
you
course.
never
I'll
know application.
stroll on down to Intel. Be like, hey, you got a quantum
up, Karbon.
computer for me to use? All right.
On Amazon. Amazon Prime.
Sabinichi Tomatovic tape.
Did we go over this?
Well, you know what it is.
Well, yeah, I'm about to say we know what this
It's
is.
a supposed a tape of a woman named Sabinj Tovatoe being basically.
This is an artistic impression.
According to the thread, or according to X anyway, Australian Serbian pornographic actress Sabinj Tomatovic reported to close friends and relatives being sexually assaulted by a giant spider measuring 4 foot in size. She stated that the encounter propelled her rise to fame in Japan's underground Genki Genki circuit. She has since moved on to centipedes and gastropods.
Now, this isn't related, but this is a diagram of a spider. It's really cool looking.
So what's this
Here's
underground Japanese thing that they were talking about?
Here's another artist rendition. And Genki Genki, I don't know what that is. I'm not a weeb.
I don't know what it is either. I'm not a weeb.
What, you
Well,
mean the Kabuki rape gang?
PP actually lived in Japan, so someone ping him an
Oh my god, Buzz.
What's Genki? Right. And when he comes back, I guess we'll
Well,
get his
somebody said
answer.
that.
Epstein AI links.
I'm looking into that.
I wonder what happens if I Google this.
What, Epstein AI or Sabinj?
No, Genki.
I'd be worried, but
Well, it's Genki. And I guess it's nothing really. Popular bit of word fanboy Japanese meaning youthistic, energetic, lively. Something tells me, is a Japanese word for having sex with a live squid.
Oh,
Nice.
they have like several old,
Oh! Well, I kind of wish I didn't look that up. So, Boson, Epstein, AI links.
Are you familiar with the Jeffrey Epstein 6 Foundation?
I'm actually not.
Sounds
It
Jewish.
is a Jeffrey Epstein, as you know, convicted pedophile, a friend to many in the rich and powerful elite circles. He founded a financial organization that backs a Hong Kong-based organization called OpenCom, which is an AI programming group under the direction of Ben Grutzel. They began their cerebral project with Hanson Robokind, a toddler-like robot. The challenge is to take the basic intelligence of virtual avatars programmed for the screen and transfer that to a robotic screen. But they're still continually getting funding from his foundation to this day, even after the pedophile convictions. So yeah. He created a whole foundation just to fund AI research. Is the basic gist. I also don't know why it's called the Jeffrey Epstein 6 Foundation, but I don't know.
Alright.
Ooh.
Computer.
A quantum cross recursion script.
Yeah, I saw that. Camera head pasta is a cover-up.
So, to anyone who knows about this, provide context as to what the camera heads are.
Well, they're supposedly the camera heads refers to a copy pasta that was made on X but was lost because it was written before they started archiving shit.
There was
It's basically
supposedly
like a
a
skit,
wiki
like a
that
it's like
actually did have them, but it's deleted now.
Right, it was just like, you know, one of those spooky green text copy pastas about like a story. But I'm assuming what this is saying is that that whole story is a cover-up for something else that Cameraheads actually refers to. That I'm not super aware of. I'm looking.
I don't think it's quite the same thing.
Yeah, I don't think that's the same.
Maybe the idea is that the cover-up itself was just deleting every single bit of it, and that the camera heads
There are
actually
a
were real.
there are a lot of posts that I see here that's referring to Cameraheads as a real entity and not just a copy. It has something to do with Corner Man. I don't know what Corner Man is. They're saying Corner Man it may be a Camerahead.
Quarter?
I would just say corner is in corner of a room.
Oh.
Someone posted a photo of a Camerahead too, but that's also a lot.
Well, doesn't seem as though we're finding much on it, Boson.
I would need to do further research on.
Alright. We'll keep it for now, but, you know.
It is technically a cryptid too, so you
Integral accident.
Oh, this is the philosophy of a French man named Paul Varillo. He's a contemporary philosopher, and he writes about technology and how it represents people and so forth. He covers a bunch of shit, but integralism is a thingy he patented. He believed that technology cannot exist without the potential for accidents. For example, Varillo argued that the invention of the locomotive also contained the invention of derailment. He saw the accident as a rather negative growth of social positivism and scientific progress, believing that technology in general can only lead to negative things. He's also... There's a lengthy page about him. I'll link it. It's not conspiracy related. It's just a school of thought. Here you go. He died last year.
Yikes. NY Observatory raid.
I've been getting is not even New York. It's from
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Yeah, it's just New Mexico where everyone thought that they closed down an observatory because aliens came there or something. But the real reason they closed it down was because one of the Wi-Fi networks actually caught someone trying to download child porn.
That's not what I'm reading at all.
Yeah, no, not.
This has to do with the fact that there was an observatory that got its shit kicked in by the military, and they didn't tell the press for 10 years. And when they did, it was from a retired veteran who said that they were likely selling missile secrets to China.
It was supposedly a sunspot observatory, and someone on X claims that several other sun-related observatories were also shut down around the same day.
See, that's fascinating. So you led to believe they're front companies. The one in New Mexico, namely, like I said, was... This has never been confirmed by like anyone reputable except for that veteran, but they were selling missile plans to like the fucking Chinese. So local law enforcement never received info about it. The state of New Mexico never released a report on it, and the feds don't talk about it.
Vardog Forerunners.
I got a creature from Norse mythology. So this is two parts, right? Part one. Stories typically include instances that are nearly deja vu in substance, but in reverse, where a spirit with the subject's footsteps, voice, scent, or appearance and overall demeanor precedes them in a location or activity, resulting in witnesses believing they've seen or heard the actual person before they actually arrive. This bears a subtle difference from a doppelganger with a less sinister connotation. And part two, I believe they're forwarding the claim that they're actually aliens.
I suppose that could be plausible.
In the context of science fiction, forerunners is generally a word that's associated with like prehistory intelligence.
Well, as everyone has already seen on the Iceberg server, we're not doing ancient aliens. So
this dude is so mad.
I'll tolerate literally anything from...
Well, did your video mention the Vodriger? I don't think it did.
Well, that video's 3 hours long and tackles all kinds of other things. Obviously, I didn't have time to tackle every last little theory, but there's more than enough evidence to show that it's bogus.
I can't believe you're trying to cover up the aliens.
I found this as a SoundCloud profile picture.
You want to know what isn't a cover-up, though? The Human Bigfoot War of 1855.
Yeah, you're gonna skip that.
Hey, Boson.
Actually, we're not.
Hey, Boson. Boson. So Baph doesn't want us to talk about this war. Maybe he's a secret Bigfoot.
Because all of the Bigfoot ones, these are sprinkled onto the chart for the joke. No one legitimately believes in them.
Well, the people who were in the Bigfoot War of 1855.
Yeah, I read the blog post about the Bigfoot War, and it's fiction. They literally say it's fiction.
Where?
The general and his 7-foot-tall Choctaw soldiers charged the Bigfoots and opened fire. Yeah, well,
I read the blog post about Tiananmen Square, and they said it was fiction.
Drain Cleaner Narcotic.
Well, you see, Baph is the gatekeeper of conspiracy, so let him tackle this.
This one's actually real because it has actual like documentation. Whereas
Go ahead.
Well, let's see. So in South Africa, funnily enough, there's or at least there was a drug craze involving drinking dish detergent because it could give you a really cheap high. Of course. Oh yeah, it has an active ingredient GHB, which is a nervous system depressant. You know, like alcohol, very similar. But it kills you so it's pretty bad. Commonly used as a date rape drug, but only in South Africa.
That's odd. LSD is a mind virus.
I couldn't find anything on that.
I found a rather complex post. I'll try to parse it out for you. Hold on, I gotta pin. Looks a tad like the Flatwood monster, and there's a couple of jokes about it.
The one I'm on right now is.
Disguised as okay, thank you. It says here, Circuit 8 is triggered by ketamine and neurochemicals produced by John Lilly, given to astronauts to prepare them for space. High doses of LSD also produce some Circuit 8 quantum awareness. One of the receptors ketamine agonizes is the kappa opioid receptor. The agonism of KOR is thought to be the causes of ketamine's mental illness mimicking side. However, coincidentally, genetically modified KOR has been used as a DRADD designer receptor exclusively activated by designer drugs for the purpose of mind control. Structure-guided approach for K-opioid reactor design. KORD is selectively activated by some B. Viruses infect your cells via receptors. You could design a virus that used a DRADD to infect people, and only those exposed to the DRADD would be vulnerable. AIDS and HIV were spread via a cord dread-infected heroin supplies, and that's why it affects mostly blacks and drug users. Entire populations today are infected with specific dreads of all kinds, and this allows total reality control. This guy is linking a bunch of like scholarly articles, so I'm not sure.
Well, where are the links?
It's a reply. He's got like a whole thread of posts going. There we go, putting it in. Moving on.
Gentlemen, it's time for an all-time classic. Finland doesn't exist.
Well, you see, there's actually a very compelling argument to this notion. Alright, so, quoting a very ancient and respected post, there are allegedly around 6.5 million Finns. Out of the world population, that is 0.0912, less than 1%. To put that another way, 99% of the planet are not Finns. Now, the best government censuses self-report they have a margin of error of at least 1%. So Finns making up less than 1% means there's a 50% chance they don't exist.
Amazing.
I found a theory that says that apparently in the Cold War, Japan and the Soviet Union found a very particular good part of a fishing estate, let's say, between Sweden and, well, Russia mostly. And these two countries would keep it to themselves and say there was actually a long strip of land called Finland between them, and to keep the good fishing for themselves. At least that's the current theory that I found.
I don't know, man. My theory is pretty plausible.
Well, I don't know. It sounds like mathematical conjecture to me, Baph.
50% is pretty generous. Like, how often do you hear about Finland in the news?
Why
I know a
would
guy
you?
who
There's some
apparently went there.
bumblefuck Scandinavian country that does nothing.
Well, yeah, that's why it's not real.
Is it not real just based on its actions then?
Just like you can't prove Albania exists, there's just no feedback for it. Or Delaware. How often do you think of the state of Delaware?
Have you ever met somebody there?
I haven't.
I have. Like, 2 years ago.
Well, you're disinfo shit.
That's a Russian psyop, I think.
It's always
Tolkien
Russian.
is real.
Supposedly, it could have been real, true history. But the thing is,
It would be impossible to like prove.
yeah.
The entire idea is at the end of the Lord of the Rings, since it ends with like the Age of Magic ending and the Age of Man beginning, that we are currently in the Age of Man and all the elves and dwarves are gone and everything magical is gone.
I imagine that this probably feeds into the Elven Holocaust theory. So the idea may be that Tolkien's projection of mythical creatures might have been real, but because we did things like commit a fucking genocide against them, that it's that they simply don't exist anymore, and thus there's no evidence for it.
Well,
I think might
funny
be.
thing about that Sinaticus, since the races that were in that usually subsisted off magic, supposedly there's a rumor going around that this was actually Europe 6,500 years ago. So, and there's another rumor that says, or at least compounds on it, saying the Irish were the halflings, and not halflings. Why did I say halflings? And the elves were Nords. So, I don't know about that.
I'm insta-blacking the next one as well. Pyramids
what's
built
that?
by Templars.
Actually, don't, because there's some.
You shouldn't do that so quickly.
But we know that they were here before the Templars.
Well, that's why I'm reading more into it, but the Knights Templar and Egyptian nobility did have valid connections.
But that's got
That,
nothing
and
to
that,
do with them
that, and I don't
building.
think it's positing that the pyramids were built later than they were. I think it's positing that the Templar Order existed before is common.
Oh, all right, fine.
Especially considering you have to look at things through the sort of mystery religion lens. Most of the ancient religion, or the religions of the ancient world or of antiquity, were mystery religions, and the Egyptian religion was not. Apart from that, most Egyptians.
Some of them were mysteries, but other cults within the Egyptian religion weren't.
I remember for an extended period of time, the major Egyptian religion was a myth, which means that the higher orders of the religion had knowledge that the regular everyday people worshippers were not privy.
That's true.
And this information has been. This information is sort of known now, the sort of geometric information that was used to build the pyramids, and that stuff was present in the Templars' libraries when it was written.
Yeah. Well, according to this image, they were built top down.
Nice.
Now that is a beautiful image.
All I'm saying is architectural and geometric information that the ancient Egyptians had was found in the libraries of the Templar. So they had legitimate connections there.
And there's this. Oh, one sec. Completely coincidental, but I thought it was worth sharing, you know.
Interesting.
So, which temple would you say the Templars are named after then? Is it still...
Well, I think it's possible for an organization to change its name over time.
True.
For sure,
Yeah,
it's named after the Temple of the Black Cube or whatever that existed since caveman times. But
what really supported the notion was that the Knights Templar, the Egyptians had really close connections in the 12th century and a little before.
Hey, that was the other thing that was weird. Most of the astronomical data that was supposedly written by the Egyptians, the earliest you can source it is the 12th century, which was right around the time that the Templars were. gallivanting about you. Like, there's no record of any of that astronomical data period before an account that was written in the 12th century by, I believe, someone who had a connection to the Templar order. Let me verify that.
All right. I guess I stand corrected. Well, this is another classic. Organic black helicopters.
I got it. I got the website.
As much as I hate to say it, it's entirely fabricated. It's a satire.
It's beautiful, Boson.
Oh, but it's so good.
It's not
so
it's a really well done satire with a lot of work put into it, but it's definitely fake.
What do you mean it's fake? No, it can't be fake.
Boson, look at the molecular structure of that. How
Just-
can that not be real?
I mean, it's so... It's
Look,
so
it's
flawless.
a cube with helicopter blades.
The fucking black-eyed children and the Black's Volkswagens... Oh, Vulgus, my bad. They're all in on it. It would be a shame for us not to explore this cryptid, eh, Boson?
It's not a cryptid, actually.
What are you talking about? It's organic.
No, you see, cryptid refers to an unknown animal. If organic black helicopters were real, they are technically everywhere and documented all over the place, so they're technically.
Are you trying to say that instead it's more like akin to a virus?
I'm saying it's not real. It's not a real conspiracy theory.
Yikes. Gangster computer god worldwide.
Francis E. Deck is a legend. Okay.
It looks like a satire.
Francis Deck is not a satirist. He's real, but he's my favorite, and we can't black him on the principle that he's amazing. He was an author that wrote all these huge, just gargantuan, just rants about nonsense. But they're so incredible.
Okay, well, share.
Alright. Alright, so which one do you want to read? I'll read one from the first.
I feel like,
So we can either read Astrocism, the True Religion of the Slovene People, Infrared Crusader Priests from Beyond Comprehension, or The True History of Nazi Germany.
I think I'm looking at the same one as you.
Can we get this link posted in voice, please?
I'm sorry.
Oh, this is just for you, Sinaticus.
There's the link to all. Oh, here we go. Gangster Computer got a worldwide secret containment.
So, guys, 9/11 was an accident.
You should black that one.
Boson, what do you have for it?
I didn't actually research that one.
I've spent an exceedingly large amount of time studying 9/11. It wasn't an accident, sorry.
Did Japan do it?
We'll get to that.
There's no moving ahead. We have a no moving ahead rule.
The original New York target was the Statue of Liberty. Most of the crew and hijackers would have survived. Crashing into the towers was the result of the hijackers losing.
Would you say
that falls into a very old theory that the pilots weren't good enough to actually hit their targets when that clearly isn't true.
Their original target was the Statue of Liberty. They missed.
Where does this information come from?
Al-Qaeda.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Okay, so basically, they weren't even approaching from the Statue of Liberty side. That would involve going from the ocean. They came from the.
But Baph, that's just how incompetent they were. They didn't even.
I mean, they were good enough to do a 70-degree turn at 200 feet.
That's just because they were losing control.
No, it wasn't. The flight paths are publicly available. They were skilled pilots.
Yeah, but they weren't skilled geographers. They didn't know
Yeah,
what
I don't have-
side the Lady
Yeah,
Liberty
I-
was on.
This is an example of one of those like kooky theories that discredit 9/11 in general. What you should be asking yourself is what happened to the Pennsylvania airline.
Yeah, true. But I'll say this: I don't have anything for it on X, but there's one post that just compiles every 9/11 theory on the Iceberg, just all. It is like, do you seriously think that whoever put all of these on here intended for them to be all plausible simultaneously? And someone just replied, yes.
Boson, if you could do us a favor and grab that, that'd be great.
I think my least favorite.
Well, no, because we
we-
need a compiled list for season 2 when we do the 9/11
We
episode.
watched a video in the WebM thread, didn't we, Boson?
Yes, we did.
And it was good.
Yeah, it was because it wasn't like the official story is exactly what happened. You're all retards, but it was basically saying all of the really overblown 9/11 conspiracy theories are basically the same.
Well, no, he said the geometry of what happened is true to the original story. The thing he admitted was that the motive was questionable.
No, that's not what he said.
He literally said that he gave you the same story the state did.
He said a plane crashed into the Pentagon. That's all he said.
Hey, guys, let's not get too
That's
far
what
out
I
of...
said, you're stupid.
I don't know what's up with you two for this one episode, but we can't be getting off
Lovers
topic.
quarrel. Lovers quarrel.
French Viper releases.
Found a PDF, it's like 70 pages long, I can't get a TLDR.
Is there not like a thesis statement?
No, that's irritating.
Well, post the PDF.
I have to find it again, hold on. You just Google it, Boson, and you'll find it first thing.
French Viper releases, is that what it was? The first thing that comes up is ResearchGate.
I accidentally typed in Gloogle.
Gloogle.
In a book, A Nest of Vipers, Perspectives on Contemporary Legend, publisher Sheffield Academic Press Limited, editors Gillian Burnett and Paul Smith, pages 11 through 40. Veronique Campon, Vincent, Foundation, Mason, The Sciences de l'Eau. Why is this upside? Apparently this was published in 1990.
I guess we'll move on then. Thermic, here you go, black goo.
Alright, so this is all I'm able to find on black goo. Essentially what goo itself is a type of poison in Chinese culture, which is you get a bunch of poisonous animals, 5 of them being a snake, a centipede, spider, stuff like that, and you put them all in a jar and have them eat each other. Eventually they'll all die, decompose, and then form the most potent poison ever.
So, black goo is actually referring to this. A mysterious substance known as La Mancha Negra.
La Mancha Negra? Black stain. How did you make the connection to that, by the way?
Because I've done research on this before.
I see.
Why didn't you say so?
Because I wanted to see if Thermic would actually get it.
I mean, I was going by what the name goo meant, which might have been related.
It might be related. Anyway, continue with your version.
That's pretty much it. A lot of it has to do with, like, references to, like, sexual actions and, like, prostitution, and the entire idea is it's just a mythological substance born out of fear.
What's the GOO stand for, Sinaticus?
I don't know. There's a lot of misspellings on this iceberg. I'm pretty sure it meant O-O. But, like, idioplastics.
Okay.
So, are you gonna do the definition, or do you have something I don't? All I got was the definition.
I got psychictruth.info. What'd you get?
I'm just gonna read the Merriam-Webster definition of idioplastic, and you can expand on it. Of an art form rendered symbolic or conventional through the mental remodeling of natural subjects.
All right. It's something tangentially similar to that. It's actually based off of mediums and spirituality in Germany. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. This website was made by a man in Hungary. And he explains that a German researcher called Schrenk Notzing, apparently he published Phenomenon of Materialization. It's the English title. That was his attempt to find a genuine medium, or any of the sort, and it was to support a hypothesis of his called idioplastics. And here's where the definition for that is: a theory that mediums exteriorate ectoplasm as thought forms, so to speak, as a paranormal exhibition of contents that were produced through the medium's own visual imagination. In a way, it's like the mediums themselves were sort of like a telepathic thing. So instead of actually speaking to spirits, you're just speaking to the medium's imagination. Goes on to talk about Budapest and the man called Ladislas Laszlo. Apparently he was a medium. The police agreed to hold a spiritualist seance in their headquarters with Laszlo as a medium, during the course of which Laszlo claimed that he was the victim of an evil entity from the 13th century who desired to use psychic force to destroy victims. Laszlo was released because apparently he was there for questioning and also possibly killing someone, and later he claimed the seance was a fake. So either the seance itself it was, or the demon was. Or possibly both.
What does that have to do with idioplastics, though?
I don't know.
Judge Boy.
Well,
That seemed like a bit of a rabbit hole.
Well, yeah.
well, the thing with idioplastics is it just refers to something is affected by thought or by human cognition. In that sense, you could imply that the universe or the world itself is made of idioplastics. Considering that based on evidence, things are at least marginally affected by human cognition or by. If you need any more evidence on this, I'll post it again. But the studies done with random number generators.
See, that alone is kind of dubious.
The idea of Sinaticus is that this man used idioplastics to get out of jail and not be committed for murder.
That's radical. Alright, Roman Empire rules the earth.
The Roman Empire still rules the earth, not the physical empire itself, but its ideas, customs, and corruptions are still omnipresent in modern society, namely that of the United States. This is not America is le Rome finna collapse argument. It's simply saying that a majority of Western civilization is functionally identical to how Rome operated, and aside from the whole technology thing, they're mutually indistinguishable, including some of its more sour parts, like the reliance on military to create economy, the pyramid scheme of power at an industrial scale. And, yeah, it's just a really deep rabbit hole of just how Roman concepts of life and how our concepts of life are identical. Nothing's changed.
Not really a conspiracy. I gotta agree with that.
It's not a conspiracy, it's just a thought experiment they want you to consider.
Alright.
Bread and circuses. Huh.
Cool. Habbo Hotel Camps.
Alright, so for this one, there's actually 3 versions of the story. One of them has actual an article evidence of it. The first version basically says it's pretty fucking far out there. There's apparently like a gang called Geno that was around, and all the users were eventually sent to like a re-education server in camps where they were like forced to have their characters drink Dr. Peppers, like not Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola and stuff like that. And yeah, it was a fucking more far out one. The second one actually has proof. It's there might have been grooming gangs in the game Habbo for a while, and there was just like camps referred to like chat rooms and plans to meet in real life with pedophiles and children. It was pretty disgusting. And then another one suggests that it's a human trafficking scheme. To like what they do is that they get humans trafficked slaves to play Habbo and get the coins there so they can sell the characters because they are now pre-made characters that could sell for a lot.
And this is all based off...
The servers did shut down for a while, Habbo. Like the ability to speak to one another because of a conspiracy with pedophiles. So that's basically what it's saying, that Habbo had a problem with pedophiles for a while, and there's 2 versions that promote that it was that's what camps mean, and one version that's too far out there that I'm pretty sure is not true.
Okay. Negative Plink feedback.
There's a PDF apparently called the On Confusion Link Feedback Parameters.
Well, Planck feedback refers to the effect where, as the temperature of a black body rises, the more radiation it emits. And apparently, if you consider Earth a black body, that means as global warming increases, the amount of radiation that it emits will also increase.
Wait.
Which I guess counts as negative feedback, because that increase of radiation will then, due to greenhouse effect, cause the Earth to warm even more, so it'll just release even more radiation, and so on and so forth.
Wait, it says that Earth is a black body, you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's factually wrong. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That means you would not... that Earth is emitting its own energy, which it is, and it's reflecting off the sun.
It's kind of
No, it's emitting its own magnetic energy through the rotation.
Yeah, I'm about to
of the
say,
core.
that's not true. It's emitting its own magnetic energy, thermic.
Yeah,
That's how
but
it
it does
gets
not.
magnetic.
But it does not emit its own light energy. Is the problem?
Well, no, black body doesn't refer to light energy, and Earth does emit its own heat energy because of the heat of the mantle and the core.
Yeah.
I see what you mean now. Okay.
Flop with it.
I'm not mad.
It's not that.
But yeah, Sinaticus, is that the right definition of what negative feedback is? 'Cause I'm trying to figure this out.
Yes, a negative feedback loop is when a negative property leads to another property, which then feeds back into the original negative property.
Okay,
An example of this, which you'll all understand because we watched it, was what happened at Chernobyl, was an example of a negative feedback loop.
And a positive feedback loop is that being reinforced to become stronger and stronger, right?
Kind
Positive
of,
feedback
but positive
amplifies the
feedback
change in the
loops.
first quality and quantity, while negative feedback reduces it.
Oh, so it's the exact. Wait, Sinaticus.
Yeah, my bad. Chernobyl's the opposite. It's a positive feedback loop where it kept producing more and more energy.
It's one of the first things they teach in chemistry too. It's really interesting.
Okay. I
Just saying
read
it's
for
interesting.
ball.
Baph, do you have this?
I found a Wikipedia article. It's sort of a combo name. It actually refers to the Temple of Baal located in Iraq. Namely, wait. Yeah. It's a temple in Syria, Palmyra.
Makes sense.
Isn't that the one destroyed by ISIS in like 2015?
No, yeah, they destroyed the other one.
Oh.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
It's a temple. It's many thousands of years old, and unless I'm missing some deep lore, or I was blown up, but it's being rebuilt. Unless I'm missing some deep lore, I'm not sure what the iceberg means by this. Maybe it's the god itself. Hold on. Baal, properly Baal or whatever,
Baal.
was a title and honorific meaning owner lord in Northwest Semitic languages spoken in the Levant during antiquity. From its use among people, it became to be applied to gods. Let's see. Maybe there was some stage of Iraqi polytheism that Baal was worshipped, perhaps?
Iraqis were mostly, or at least the old Iraqis were mostly taken over by Assyrians. Nowadays it's mostly Arab. Although the Arabs did have their own...
So what you mean is it saying that the American military on some level worshipped Baal, so they decided to retake Iraq for the Baal worshippers because it is Islamic now?
Where are you reading this from?
I thought that's what you're...
I said nothing about Americans. This is like ancient Semitic history.
Oh.
Islam, the Quran.
I'm assuming when they say Iraq for Baal, they're referring to the Iraq War.
Maybe.
It refers to the whole, the tried and true phrase Iraq for Baal. I would assume that that's what they're meaning.
Well, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Check 4 plebs real quick, but if not, we'll just black.
Oh, I didn't find anything on 4.
Let me check. Right, an interesting thought the other discuss. It stated that the U.S. government was created by our founding fathers and others behind the scenes by invoking Baal, Moloch, and other ancient gods. It went on to say that that is why there have been so many constant wars and children sacrificed to sustain this government and satisfy their old gods. It would explain Bohemian Grove, Franklin Cover-Up, Iraq, Vietnam, etc. That doesn't quite get it. Nope, I can't find anything beyond that. What about you, Boson?
No, he said he didn't find anything, so I blocked it.
Yeah.
Valley of Lost Candles.
Alright, so apparently, according to X, what this refers to is when Russ Meyer was filming a movie, they were forced off the outdoor set by an unexpected storm. Later, when they tried to find the set again, they couldn't locate it, leading to years of treasure hunters trying to find this lost set in the middle of the California wilderness. This is a movie set that I guess they couldn't find again, according to...
That's it?
Apparently. I tried Googling it, but it's rather ungoogleable.
Alright, I guess we'll just move on. Dreams of the Blind.
It's a deeply philosophical question. What do blind people see when they sleep?
I remember reading a study where they say that they actually don't see anything, but they do have a lot of nightmares about being hit by cars and stuff.
How do they know what the car looks like?
They don't, but they know what the sound of the car is, and they know what the sound of a car crash is.
That would give me nightmares too. It's an evil machine that you hear every day, and it will kill you if you step in the wrong.
Yeah. That's
think about it, like you can think of what a car sounds like when it passes you. Like if you have no idea what that is, that would be kind of. It's just this weird wispy noise.
Hitler brainwashed by electromagnetic rays. Now this deeps.
Anything with Hitler in the title is questionable.
Yeah, this dives into the innocent Hitler theory, which is the idea that whilst Nazi Germany might have done bad things, Hitler himself wasn't that terrible. So
pretty
I guess
cool
this
guy.
theory,
Hitler did nothing wrong.
Hitler did nothing wrong. So I guess this one poses the idea that he was actually brainwashed by the Allies to do terrible things. Any evidence for this?
No. That in some cases Hitler shared opinions with the Allies. I mean, everyone hated Jews. This was not a new thing at the time.
All right then, Dovlin, Wisconsin.
Oh, Boson, you do this real quick. You know about this.
Sure thing. It was in Wisconsin that many people vividly remember visiting. They say it had all the all the accoutrements of a town. They remember being there. There's a photo that was supposedly taken. Look for it. It does not. It's not a real place. This is the basic gist of it. There's more information. Let me post the picture.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's so tiny, but this is a picture that was supposedly taken in Dublin.
I remember a bigger version you've posted, so it's weird.
Yeah, it's a. We swear it was real at one point. The problem with rural America is that you get shit like that all the time. Delvland is just the ex favorite because it has a funny name.
I don't think that's because there are a lot of accounts of it, like a lot of it. It was something like the Mandela effect, where it's like a small detail in a movie. You can be like, "Oh, that's just like a memory," but to like imagine an entire fucking town that had a population of 1,000 and so many people remember it. That's
Imagine if the town
not
you
the
lived
same
in disappeared while you're on vacation.
I guess up next is Kofifi Clock Theory? What the fuck is that?
Sounds like a Donald Trump joke.
Yeah.
I guess we're just gonna blacken and move on then.
Hold on. Oh, hold the fuck on. I'm looking at. Stop. Get your hand off the trigger, Sinaticus. Jesus.
He wants
But I want to
play
kill
video
Spider-Man.
game. He wants to play video game.
I want to get to Rynox before we end, so.
Alright, well, hold the phone. I'm looking for this again.
Alright, I'm gonna go right now.
You don't have to tell us when
We
you're
should
going
go
whilst we're
halfway
recording.
through Rynox.
So it says, convert Kofefe into its periodic table element. Take the number of each element and make a number string. Google that number string, you get the computer frog pic. Alright, let me see that. Because this is something you can verify. So let's take a look at the periodic table. So Fe is obviously iron. Is there an element that's just the letter V? There's CO. Is CO oxygen or is it copper? Sad, because you can help me out on this if you want.
Oh, whoops. Periodic table. Gee, Wikipedia. Yes, there is. It's element 23.
Be copper. What element is it? What element is the B?
I just said it's element 23. I just referred to its number.
Oh yeah, 23. Oh, alright, so that would be copper, which is 27. 23, and then 2 irons, which is 26. So if we Google 27, 23, 26, 20.
actually get it?
Let me. I did, but that's probably because it's become a meme, sort of. Although funny,
Get out there.
if you put the number into PubMed, you get this article, which is kind of.
What the fuck?
Neon Trombos just kept pinging me saying it's me.
Okay then. I guess I'll keep it. Cottingley fairies were real.
Alright, the Cottingley fairies are supposed to be about these fairies that appeared in a series of 5 pictures taken with a little girl in 1917. Now, it caused quite a stir, and the pictures eventually came to the attention of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the great author who made Sherlock Holmes. Doyle, as a spiritualist, was enthusiastic, quote, about the photographs and interpret them as clear visible evidence of psychic phenomenon. So a lot of people went crazy over them and thought, oh, these are real. Except, these clearly look like either dolls or paper cutouts, because let's see if I can find that other picture.
Oh, it's got a little flute. Look at that.
Yeah. Or at the very least, they look cartoony. They don't look quite so real. Now, of course, the idea that they're real has always been in subject. Alright, found a blog. Nope, they don't appear to be real. The ones who were taken with the photo have been interviewed several times, at least 3, and they've said almost every time that they were fake. I don't know why this is on here.
Yeah, I think just people were really bored in that time. Like, wow.
Abandoned payphone cold calling.
Hey, this one's beautiful, okay? This one's cute. So, we all know the American West is really deserted, right? It's like really empty. There was a payphone put up in the 60s. It was right on the intersection of 2 extremely lonely highways in Southern California. It was originally meant for, like, mining trucks that would pass through. And it was updated throughout the 70s and 80s. It because of its, like, weird location, it developed a cult following on the internet. And people started traveling to the phone booth to make calls. They would make graffiti on the phone booth. And in some cases, there were people who would use the phone as a relay to, like, IRC chats. The popularity of this led Bell to destroy the phone. It's gone now. So the fans put up a headstone, "Rest in peace, Mojave phone booth," and I'll put it up. But they took that down too.
Oh.
Here's a picture of it.
Damn.
It's pretty funny.
What's the conspiracy, though?
There is none. It's just a fun fact. And a strange piece of technology in the middle of nowhere developed a cult following, and the company got concerned and removed it.
I do have one thing that's slightly more conspiratorial.
You said it was used for IRC chats, right?
There's a post on X that said there was a thread on X where they were calling numbers of abandoned phone booths, and they found a line that was supposed to be for a payphone in a national park, but it was a number that was asking for a passcode. It was random. people in the thread made a Discord and we tried to brute force an access code, but no luck because we didn't know how many digits were. I'm trying to find the original thread if I can, but it's probably quite.
Well, most extensions for phones are 3 digits.
Alright, but they called the number and the number, it asked for a path. Oh, what do you do with that?
It's pretty weird.
Let's see.
I'd say keep it because maybe we can find the original thread during season 2. I'll try to.
Alright.
Oh, here's a fun fact, by the way, about it. So AT&T retired the phone number for the phone booth, and its current number 760-733-9969 is a voice over IP line. Anyone who calls the line joins a conference with strangers as if the phone was still active, but it's also internet connected. So it's kind of kept alive, but not the physical booth.
That is cute. I like it.
Alright.
Let me bail in with the phone.
Baph, all mountains are giant trees.
Oh, we finally made.
Oh, and it ties into the flat Earth theory. I'll post pictures as I go. So the theory states that large structures like mountains, clearing, hills, and trenches are just what was left over of a planet-spanning superforest that existed long before mankind. And as oxygen depleted, these giant mountains are just dead trees. So few of them are left. And the Devil's Tower is later on the list. Phelan, stop pinging me.
I find it to be an interesting theory. Only because the physical similarities are striking and when you can cherry pick them in. Like if you look at like the one that's the tree trunk that's been cut. If I showed you that image and said that's actually taken from really far away and that's a rock formation, that's really big, I think you'd believe me because you can sort of see that that's kind of what it looks. I don't know, I find it fascinating. The imagery is certainly creative.
Yeah, it's interesting. Number of stations post-Trump.
I couldn't find anything beyond someone suggesting that it might be related to Sky King and not elaborating further, or saying that a revival of old Russian spy techniques signifying World War III.
There's one story I found referred to a man who was listening to an AM radio station. Frequency was AM band. It ends at 1610, and this was a 1637 frequency. He said that it was a number station, but at some point it said the message, Trump will go 26th. Thing is, the video has been removed. The article I found linked me to another article. The website that article was on has been taken down.
Kaput.
So I wish I could get you more information on that, but I literally can't.
Alright then.
Just so we're clear, this happened in, I think somewhere like in August of 2016, so it was before the election was actually.
Alright. Japan did 9/11.
The only thing I found was some guy, a really popular Japanese politician at the time, thought that some vague shadow organization attempted to capitalize on or at least try to stage it, in order to somehow profit from the stock market. That's about it.
Maybe we're not gonna actually do a 9/11 season 2 episode.
Why not?
Or maybe one where we debunk all of them. America was never discovered.
This one just kind of gaslights an alt history possibility.
Okay, what's the hypothesis?
There isn't one. I really looked deep into it. You just kind of have to like, how would Earth be if there was no USA?
Okay, obviously very different. The Axis probably would have won World War II. The whatever group that wasn't the Triple Entente would have won World War One.
Well, I'd argue those conflicts would have never happened.
No, they happened independent of America, so they would have happened regardless.
Well, you can't really say that. Like,
Well, they did.
part of the reason there was an arms race in the first place was because the Europeans were trying to secure their hegemony in light of North American economic dominance in that area.
Yeah, but that kind of conflicts where they're securing their hegemony would have happened between each other. You don't need the United States for World War I or II to happen, for that matter.
Anyway, you could go on all night with that.
I guess that's it. You can join our Discord for more conversations. See you in the next episode.